Hello everyone and welcome to an ESO video where today we are covering the first week of Scalebreaker's PTS. So this video is taken from the first stream I did after the PTS was announced on the forums. Just want to let you guys know there's going to be some stops, some breaks, I'm going to need a drink, have some conversation with some of the viewers, all that good stuff. Also, I just want to let you guys know that while some areas I do rant in, my impressions of this patch are really good. This is going to be a fantastic PvP patch. And even PvE is looking really good. Now that I've gotten to go over the forums more, see some test results coming in. And also ZOS actually coming out and confirming something that they did not say when I first reviewed these notes. So for those of you who do not know, despite the fact that the orbs from the Undaunted skill line can only be cast once, the synergy can be taken from anyone in the party. The synergy does not break the bubble, so it will continue traveling despite being used. So that shapes a lot of my decision on the orb synergy. And I just want to let you guys know that while I'm going to be super negative about it in the video, that does shine a much more positive light on the situation. Also, note that despite the fact that every AoE in the game is being nerfed, multiple single target damage over time abilities have been added to the game to help compensate for this, for both stamina and magic, and Soul Trap being the most powerful of them as far as I can tell from the PTS actually is a partial AoE in that it affects 3 targets. So it will make a good replacement for some of the AoE component lost in this patch. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. But yeah, for the rumors being true, what happened was that most of them were true, but they were incomplete. So the initial wave of everyone hating on it was a little more unfounded, mostly because of the fact that they were missing a lot of other buffs that happened elsewhere. That kind of made up for all the nerfs. But yeah, so like I said, I'm going to skip over like most of this stuff here. I'm just going to kind of find what's interesting. They did not add a new skin with the new dungeons. Instead, it's a new memento and a new pet. So, little sad about that. Little sad that there's no new skin. But, I mean, it is what it is. But the new sets are actually kind of interesting to me. At least a couple of them. Like, Hollow Fang Thirst. Interesting little light armor set coming out of Moongrave. Whenever you critically heal or critically damage a target, spawn a ball of hemoglobin, whatever the hell that is, at their location. 2 seconds later, the ball will explode, restoring 3.5k max magic, and applying minor vitality to you and your allies in 6 meters. Actually, it's actually a pretty neat little set. This is kind of like Magic's version of Essence Thief. So, it's an interesting little set. I can't wait to see how this actually like works, or get on PTS, see what it actually looks like, because that will determine how useful this is. Like, how easy is it to get to the proc and whatnot? How big is it? But this could be really interesting, especially for healers. When is this new one coming? Should be about 5 weeks from now, give or take, is when Scalebreaker will be coming out. Might be 4 weeks, but I'm pretty certain it's about 5. So, got a lot of PTS updates to go through before we get there. And definitely a few things need some rework, that's for sure. Most of it's good, but there are a few things that I hope they revise before the actual launch of this patch. And this set here, this next one, Drozakar's Claws, or I think that's how you pronounce that. Physical pen, weapon crit, stam recovery, all good stats. For every bleed effect you have on an enemy, increase your weapon damage by 200 against them. Also, just note, guys, that bleeds now are affected by physical resist, so the pen is not a wasted stat, because a lot of people said that when they first saw this. But bleeds have been changed to actually count for resist now, and have for the most part been buffed to compensate for that. But this, for bleed stacking builds, this could be very entertaining, because not even specking for bleeds, just running dual wield with double axes and two-hander with an axe. That's 4 bleeds that could be up at one time. It's not gonna be perfect. You're not gonna always have that up, but that's 4 potential bleeds without specking any sets that give you more. So this could be a very, very strong set on the right builds. That being said, I don't think we're going to see a whole ton of this, just because it is going to require you to spec your build a certain way to run this accurately, and you're going to need a defensive set to help make up for the fact that this does nothing for your healing. But overall, I think I might try this set out at some point if I'm trying to bleed build, because this looks really promising. And for the tank set, I mean, really, I've never been a fan of tank sets in the new dungeons. Most of them are kind of bad. And honestly, this one's not much of an exception to the rule. When you deal direct damage, so light attacking or stabbing someone with taunt or whatever, you get in a stack of resolve for 10 seconds. Each stack increases your healing taken by 1% and your physical and spell resist by 420. This, you only gain 1 stack every second, can stack up to 8 times. Okay defensive set, you know. It's not bad. It's not great either. It's about 3,200 resists. So what, like 5% damage mitigation coming out of that. But to me, I never like my resist being reliant on a proc anyway. And I know this is a consistent proc, but it's still, you have to stack it, and I really don't like my resist being spec'd into that. And 8% healing taken's okay, but not really, it's not huge, you know. It's definitely not where I'd start for a tank set, and maybe this could be more useful for PvP. But either way, this is not a set I'm really caring about. Hey, Redbird. Man, I am, yeah, dude, I had to get on early today. To review these. I have a PvP event I'm really dying to do today, too. And there was no way for me to review this in time beforehand if I didn't get on early to actually go over this stuff. The new monster set, however, actually, it's a really good sustain set. Weapon crit, spell crit. Whenever you deal critical damage, restore 1,000 mana or stamina, whichever maximum's higher, and 500 of the opposite resource. It's going to occur every 5 seconds. It's not bad at all. That is really not bad at all. It's like 400 mag or stam recovery and then 200 of the opposing. It's not a bad set at all. I wonder if, I'm not sure if we're going to see more use out of it. But if people are looking for a sustain set, this might be the go-to one nowadays, because it's actually reliable sustain. This isn't like Engine Guardian where it's random, you know? It's not nearly as strong as Engine Guardian, but it's also way more reliable with what you're getting. So, we will have to see. This is from the other dungeon, Marsalok? Marsalok? I think that's how you pronounce that. But mag recovery, spell damage, max magic, so really good stats right off the bat. Your light attacks apply an Eye of Zen on enemies for 20 seconds. Enemies with the Eye of Zen take an additional 2% damage from each damage over time effect you placed on them, up to a max of 10%. Ooh. So, wait. 2% for each damage. So this isn't a stacking set. When I first read this, I thought this was a stacking set. It's not. It's, this is if you have 5 dots on them, you get the 10% bonus damage. You have 4 dots, 8%. Okay, that's cool. Again, these sets are interesting. Like, none of these look broken to me. This looks, like I said, this could be concerning on the right build, but nothing here looks broken to me. They all look kind of like interesting little sets for certain builds. I can definitely dig these. Especially since we got another damage over time set down here. Weapon crit, max stam recovery. When you deal damage with a damage over time effect, apply a stack of Blight Seed on your target for 5 seconds. At 20 stacks, it explodes, dealing 11,100 disease damage to targets and nearby enemies. An enemy that has reached 20 stacks cannot be infected again for another 2 seconds. It's an okay set, I guess. You put a little bomb on someone, basically. So if you're paying attention to it and you stack multiple bleeds on someone, you could get a nice damage proc out of this. Get a really nice damage proc out of this. That being said, though, I don't think this is gonna be a great set. I don't think it's gonna be great. Like, it's neat. It's definitely nice if you're running a disease build or a build that, you know, you're stacking a ton of dots on people. But if I was stacking a ton of dots on someone, I would take this set. If I was doing bleeds, I would take this set over Reaper here. Just because while this is a nice burst and whatnot, nothing will scale this aside from some CP. Nothing will change that number. This, however, is constantly buffing your damage. This buffs all your damage. this is, you get 11,000 disease damage, which is not a bad bomb. Definitely not a bad bomb if you're paying attention to it, but I don't know. I think I'd rather the bleed one if I was running one of them. And I would not run them together. Definitely would not run them together unless if you're going major squish, because you will have no healing. Let's see here. What do we got on our... Oh, the heavy armor set. Okay. Take damage from melee attack, gain corrupting aura for 5 seconds that applies the minor breach and minor fracture debuff to all enemies near you. Can occur every 5 seconds. It's not bad. Not bad. That's pretty much it. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's an okay set. It's a little bit better at debuffing opponents. I would probably take this in place of, like, I wouldn't use Alkosh in dungeons, for instance, but I might use this if I was looking to just push damage as high as physically possible, because this is more reliable. Alkosh doesn't proc nearly enough in dungeons. At PvP, I wouldn't really bother with this. That's only like 3% increase, 2 or 3% increased damage on the target. I wouldn't really worry about this set. There's way better 5 pieces for PvP. And this was the one I'd heard about too, this new monster set here, a Marsalok. When you bash an enemy, you spew a cone of corruption, dealing 8,000 disease damage to an enemy. This damage is increased by 5% for each negative effect you have on them, up to 150% additional damage. And when people first saw this, I knew they were, like, people were like, what the hell? Because this right here was not in the original leaked patch notes. This effect can only occur every 7 seconds. That makes that significantly better. Like, significantly more balanced. That, and the only way to get the full damage proc out of this, of what is, hold on, 1,600, holy crap, so this could get up to like 20,000 damage on this proc, but you'd have to have 30 debuffs on someone. How the hell could you you need to be in a group play for that, I think, right? I don't see any way this set would, you'd have any way of actually getting this kind of stack on it. But either way, that is actually pretty impressive. It's a, that could be a nasty proc if you could figure out how to somehow manage to pull that off. Maybe it'd be good in, like, Zerg Warfare or something. You know, you hit him with, like, a meat bag or something, get a nice defile on everyone, and then send your bash dude in who comes and smacks this for a nice burst. I don't know. It's an interesting set, though. Definitely interesting. But I guess this is kind of replacing the whole bash niche that Bash Crow had before they nerfed that to the ground. So I guess this is kind of replacing it, but a lot more controlled, which I like. So this one, new collectibles, I'm kind of just going to skip over this one. I'm going to skip over this because these are all just from the new dungeons and whatnot. But where is it? Is it not right here? Yeah, no, that's the dungeon ones. Okay, there's some new styles and whatnot I will go over when I find them, though. But anyways, new dye, furnishings, multi-crafting, which is really, really good. Because this is better than the add-on. This is much better than the add-on. So you can now perform several actions in bulk at crafting stations and receive your items immediately. Now, this is the reason why I say this is better than any crafting add-on. Not only is it part of the base game, so it means console gets this too. Crafting add-ons don't give it to you immediately. They just do it for you. They keep crafting and crafting, so you don't have to sit there and keep hitting the key. This, to me, looks like I can set up, like, I want 10 stacks of potions, and it immediately makes them. Consumes the correct amount of ingredients, and there you go. That's pretty cool. If that's how that works, I'm going to be super hyped for that. This also includes refining, creation, deconstructing, extracting, and applies to all crafting stations. This feature's hype as hell. I'm really happy to see this getting added to the game, because it's something a lot of people have been asking for a long time. And it's really nice to see them finally giving a good quality of life to console. Guild Trader multi-bidding. Nothing really to see here for us people who do not have a trading guild. But the Too Long Didn't Read version is basically you can bid on multiple traders now for a week for your guild. And whichever one that had the highest bid that wins, you'll get that one. And all the other bids will be refunded to you. So, very nice. That has nothing to do with, completely has nothing to do with us, but still very nice for the guild masters there. And the humongous quality of, the best quality of life improvement possible for this patch. Undaunted keys. Oh my god. Thank you for this, by the way. Undaunted keys are now a currency tab and no longer take up inventory space. You do have to log on to each character to put them into your new currency slot that they create, though. And you no longer spend your keys at the actual pledge masters. You spend them in a tab, much like the Crown Store. And what they do now is they have mystery coffers, which are pretty much identical to the old chests for 1 key. They also have 5 key chests that you can buy from, and these will limit you to only 2 possible monster sets. So, for instance, if I want Bloodspawn, I buy from the Spindle Clutch box for 5 keys, and I can only get the monster set from Spindle Clutch 1 and 2 out of that box. That is incredible. I'm so happy they finally added something like this. Absolutely amazing. Now, it still kind of sucks you gotta spend 5 keys to get what you want, but the sheer odds of you getting what you want right now are so bad that 5 keys is fine. I'm 100% happy with this trade. 100% happy, because it means it's going to be really easy to farm the set you want and no more spending 50 keys trying to find something. So, very, very nice. Also, the monthly monster shoulder will be available for direct purchase for 50 keys, in addition to being a rare drop from the super mystery boxes. So you can either outright purchase it or just try your luck with the mystery box and see if you get it. You know, maybe you'll get it for less, maybe you'll get it for more, but at least you can pay 50 to guarantee it. Jeweling writs got buffed, so they should have a lot more, get a lot more writs out of doing them. Kind of keep bouncing through here, see if there's anything else. Ah, yes, they added, this is what I was talking about, I was super excited about. Siege Master costume obtained by consuming a Runebox Siege Master costume. So, this is only available, you can only get this, and from doing Imperial City dailies. You gotta do Imperial City dailies to get this, to get these merits that you then buy the box to put them in, and then you can for 1,000 Telvar, and then you get your costume. But this, they're finally adding some incentive to IC. It's not the greatest incentive in the world, but a collectible that is incentivized by just going there and doing the dailies, that's really nice. I'm hoping that'll increase people coming here. So it's nice to see they're finally trying to breathe some life back into IC. I hope this is a continued trend in future patches. Also, they're adding a new outfit style to Battlegrounds, which is really cool. It's only from completing flag games, though. So, sucks it's not deathmatch, I guess. But very, very happy they're adding another outfit style. You will always get these in a set order. You'll get the chest, then the bracers, then the legs, then the boots, then the shoulders, finally helmet. There is no waist. And that's the order you'll get this outfit in. And once you've completed all, or once you've got all of them, you will instead begin getting Battlegrounds memorabilia, a treasure that can be sold to vendors for 1,000 gold at the same rate. So basically, they just made it where it's actually, you can make some decent money just playing, you know, just make some money playing Battlegrounds. So that's pretty nice. I kind of wonder if they're going to do this for the other game modes in future patches, adding an outfit specific to those and then adding the memorabilia to those as well. I'm kind of curious, but it also sounds like these are not an RNG thing. It sounds like when you do a flag mode, you're just going to start getting these. Okay, no, it does say occasionally, so there's a chance. But still, you get some money for doing Battlegrounds, I'll take it. Alright, so moving down, we got updated item sets. Now, there's a bunch of these, including some of them are not listed here, by the way. There's other ones down at the very bottom of this page that have been updated less significantly than these, so we'll have to go over those separately. But basically, Phoenix, they changed it so it no longer gives you the free res. They did this with every set they used to revive you, by the way, and gave us a much weaker version of the current effect. So instead of you being revived, healing for 17,000 health, and exploding for 8,000 fire damage once every 10 minutes, you instead, when you drop below 25% health, gain a damage shield that absorbs 10k for 6 seconds and deals 12,500 fire damage to nearby enemies. This can occur every minute. So they buffed the set, or changed it. I wouldn't say buffed, but they definitely changed it. I'm still never going to run this. But it's nice to see they're actually trying to go back over some old sets finally. Starting to give us a reason to run these things again. But regardless, Phoenix is still kind of like that trolley set that most people won't run. But interesting. Martial knowledge. This one I thought was a little more interesting though. The old effect was when you deal damage, you cause the enemy to take 10% additional damage for 2 seconds. This effect can occur every 4. Now it's while your stamina is below 75%, your light attacks cause the enemy to take a 10% additional damage for 4 seconds. So, it's a little more of a risky proc, but the effect's better. So I'll have to see how that plays out, if people will use this or not. I don't think I will, because I don't like play. You know, I play my sustain to exactly what I need, but I don't know. I don't know about that one. Don't think I'd want a set that requires me to be doing bad with my sustain. One set though that they desperately did buff though is Elemental Succession. Like, still very, very niche, but they did a good job buffing this to make it actually usable now. Because the old effect was while you're in combat, you gain a rotating bonus of Flame, Shock, and Frost. The active element changes every 4 seconds, and your attacks dealing damage get an active or dealing damage with the active element gain 515 spell damage. The new effect is much better. It's whenever you deal the Flame, Shock, or Frost damage, you gain 500 spell damage for that element for 4 seconds. This can occur every 8 per element, and you can have all of them up at the same time if you have 3 elemental types. So, all they did was made this significantly better, because as it was, if you were running like an all flame build with this set, the flame buff you only had for 4 seconds out of every 12. Now you have it for 4 seconds out of every 8, and you can have them all at once if you're running like Force Pulse or something. So this is still very niche build, but at least they did something to make it more usable. So I'm curious to see if anyone actually like tries this out for something. Very curious. Now, Overwhelming Surge, they changed as well, and when you activate, the old effect was when you activate a class ability, you have a 15% chance to surround yourself in a shock field that does 1,892 shock damage to the closest enemy. This is the important thing, to the closest enemy within 12 meters every 1 second for 6 seconds. This can occur every 6. So literally you could have this up at all times if you got lucky. The new effect is when you deal damage with a class ability, you have a 33% to surround yourself with a torrent that deals a little over 1,000 shock damage. So the damage has been reduced, the chance is up higher, but it affects all enemies in 12 meters now. There is no longer the closest. So this is a nice little AoE field for 6 seconds. And this is the reason why I said this is a nice little buff. 15% of the damage you deal this way is restored to you as magic. So you got some decent mana return for this for like 1vxing and whatnot. Or if you're in a Magplar on a battleground using this. Gonna have, I would say Magplar and Battlegrounds are gonna have some really good sustain with this set. It's really nice. Hey, Wayward. How we doing, man? Lurking, but you're gonna 100% be trying Elemental Succession on your Magcrow for PvE since they have all 3 elements in their kit. Yeah, man, I think that they're the ones who could take advantage of it the most. I'm curious to see if it works out well. So let me know how it turns out. I'm really curious about it. The next one they buffed, basically Trinamax Valor, which is why it was when you cast a damage shield on an ally, you have a 20% chance to call down a fragment of Trinamax that heals you and allies for 3,600 and deals the same damage to enemies. Could occur every 5 seconds. Kind of an underwhelming set. The new effect, basically, they buffed the healing, they buffed the damage, and there's no longer a chance. It's just when you cast a damage shield, you call down the fragment. Still kind of an underwhelming set, I think. But it's nice that it's no longer, you know, it's a significant buff to it. It's a significant buff, so I'm curious if it's actually going to be used. Maybe as a dungeon healer build, or maybe in PvP. You know, I'm not really... I don't know this set very well, so I don't really understand how the fragment calls, where it lands, you know. I don't understand most of that. So, I have to see how it behaves and see if people start running it or not. So for medium armor, Sensuous Bite, when you roll dodge, or the old effect was when you use roll dodge, your weapon damage is increased by 430, and your weapon crit was up by 657. What was that, like 3% extra weapon crit? New effect is when you roll dodge, increase your crit damage by 12% for 8 seconds. Overall, I'd say it's buffed. Overall, I'd say Sensuous Bite definitely got buffed. I still wouldn't use this. I still wouldn't use this set. I mean, I like what they're trying to do with it. I like the idea behind it, but it's really just not practical to come into your burst combo with a roll dodge. Like, when you're playing defensive, it's nice because it's a nice passive gain, but it's just, I think it's just too clunky, to be honest, for this to be really a good offensive set, you know? So, but at least it's buffed for those people who are trying to use it. Hopefully it works out good for them. Kind's Kiss, they did change. When you deal, the old effect was when you deal direct damage with a bow, you have a 10% chance to heal for 1200 health and restore 1200 stamina. Now it's when you deal direct damage while 12 meters or further from your target, you have a 15% chance to heal for 1000 health and 1000 stamina. So they upped the proc chance, lowered the resources a little bit, and opened it up so any ranged ability can work now. Any ranged ability. This is still most of these sets are pretty mediocre sets in the first place, the ones that they're messing with right now. It still kind of is, but it's a little better than it was before, I'd say. Proc chance being higher is kind of nice. But heavy armor, Eternal Warrior and Immortal Warrior, these were the other sets that brought you back from the dead if you died. Basically all that happened now is they can proc every minute instead of or this one can proc every minute compared to every 10 minutes, thank God. And the new effect is when you drop below 25% health, you heal for 12,500 and gain 100 ultimate. It's actually really neat for tanks, I guess. Might be good for a beginner tank learning how to do it, because it's a good, you know, it'll help him out if he drops low and has no means of healing it, if he burned himself out of resources or whatnot. I don't really see this being great for PvP, just because that heal is going to be halved. But I guess and it only procs once every minute, so the reliability is going to be really bad. But it's okay. It's better than it was. It's definitely a lot better than it was. But still, again, most of these sets that occurred that behaved like this just weren't worth running in the first place, and they kind of still aren't. But as a beginner tank, this one has become a lot more viable to what it's doing now, or for what its job actually is. And Immortal Warrior, this is the one I'm not fond of at all. It used to be when you die, you turn into a statue for 3 seconds, you're immune to all negative effects, but can still be healed. And the effect can occur every 20 minutes, so it kind of sucked in general. Now it's while your health is below 35%, gain major protection, reducing the damage you take by 30%. I don't think this is worth a 5-piece. I really don't think this is worth a 5-piece, because as a tank, you really don't want your health that low ever, if you can help it. You really don't, and most tanks are also vampires, so we already kind of have this. You know, I mean, major protection is no joke, but I don't think this is worth the 5-piece at all. I would much rather Steadfast Hero, for instance, if I was playing a Templar or a Warden or a Necromancer who can purge stuff. I'd much rather Steadfast Hero, because that would give better uptime and major protection, and you could still be at 100% health while using it. Alright, so the next set, 7th Legion Brute. Now, this got reworked a lot, and I know a lot of people are going to be salty about this. I, for one, am okay with it. I think 7th Legion was an overperforming set that kind of needed, especially since it's heavy armor, it needed toned down. So, take your pick on what you guys think about it, but overall, it definitely got reworked. So, the old effect was when you take damage, you have a 10% chance to gain 500 weapon damage for 5 seconds and heal for 1,200 health. This effect could occur every 2 seconds. So, basically in PvP, what this means is that you had 500 weapon damage at all times, and you were about once every 3 to 4 seconds you were getting this heal. And it's pretty much just how the set behaved. It was a heavy armor set that was just constant, that gave you so much weapon damage. Like, no medium set gives you this. There's no medium set in the game that gives this. That was why I definitely am pretty okay with it getting nerfed, being it that it's a heavy armor set. It doesn't make sense for it to give more than a medium. And it got changed so that now when you cast an ability that increases your physical or spell resistance, you gain 350 weapon damage and 350 health recovery for 10 seconds. This can occur off cooldown. So, this is actually, like, my opinion of the set is that it's actually interesting. It's okay. It's not great, but it's definitely interesting. It's back barable now. That's kind of the up, I guess. Since you can guarantee the proc, if you're playing something that's refreshing an armor buff frequently, whether you have a Source of the Minor resist in your kit anywhere, or if you're playing like a Nightblade and every time you go to your back bar to activate Dark Cloak, you get the you'll get this buff. So, I mean, overall, it is definitely back barrable now. It's going to make it a little more build creativity involved. Pairs really well with Troll King, I suppose, with the health recovery bonus. And that in Artaeum. But it's definitely not the best in slot PvP set anymore, and I'm kind of glad. I'm honestly kind of glad. It didn't need to be. So, overall, solid nerf. Solid nerf. You don't feel pressured to running it anymore. Sucks that it kind of isn't as, it doesn't quite fill the same function it used to either since it doesn't give the healing anymore. That does kind of bite. But regardless, I can agree with this nerf. It did need to happen. So, is what it is. Hey, Krail. Welcome to stream, man. You understand it. You're just sad, but we'll find something else. Yeah. Pretty much. I think certain builds will be able to take advantage of the fact that it's back barrable, but I don't think it's going to be in every build standard anymore, which I'm happy. Now, the second set they nerfed, this Armor of the Veiled Inheritance. So, the old effect, when you deal damage, you had a 10% chance to increase your weapon damage by 400 for 5 seconds. For the most part, this set was okay. It was outperformed by Ravager at almost all times. And it was okay. It maybe could have been toned down a little bit, because again, it still gives something very similar to medium armor, despite being a heavy set. But what they decided to nerf it by, this has killed the set, in my opinion. So, when you interrupt an enemy, you gain 500 weapon damage for 5 seconds. I think they just killed this set. I don't agree with this change. If they wanted to nerf it, they could have toned it down a little bit, or changed it so it had a cooldown where it couldn't proc all times. But this is just too harsh of a proc type. You cannot reliably get this, and in PvP, this is almost never gonna be a thing that comes up. There's just so little cast time skills that you can actually interrupt. Like I said, I think they buried this set. So, hopefully they revisit it, but if not, then bye-bye Veiled Inheritance. And Ravager's interesting, so I want to hear what you guys think about this a little bit. Old effect was when you deal melee damage, you had an 8% chance to increase your weapon damage by 645 for 10 seconds. Holy crap. And this effect could occur off cooldown. Now, it's each time you attempt to reduce the target's physical or spell resistance, you gain a stack of Ravager for 5 seconds, increasing your weapon damage by 125. You can gain a stack every second, and at 4 stacks, the duration is doubled but can no longer be refreshed. So, basically, each stack can last for 5 seconds, but once you hit 4, you have Ravager for 10 seconds, and then they all drop, and you have to start over. But it gets up to a total of 500 weapon damage, and honestly, like, I'm intrigued by this. So, it's no longer as good for a class like Stamplar, unless they're running a specific build. But classes like DK, DK, who's spammable, happens to be, like, noxious nowadays. Or Nightblade, who spammable happens to be Surprise Attack, which, that's not always giving you pen, but sometimes it is. Honestly, like, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this change. It's a little more interesting. Like I said, it feels a little bad that it's a Stamplar Classic set, and it kind of doesn't help Stamplar as much as it used to. But still, seems pretty interesting. I'm definitely going to try it out on the DK and see how it goes. You're okay with Ravager? You'll have better uptime in your Stamp DK than now, you think? I think so, too. And the big thing to remember, like, you got to compare this set to other sources of weapon damage. So, comparing this like Hunding's. Once you're at 2 stacks, you're now equal to Hunding's Rage. 3 stacks is over, and then 4 stacks is way over. And so, like, overall, half the time you will either be at Hunding's or just under Hunding's. And then the other half the time you'll be over Hunding's. So overall, I think it's an okay change. Definitely okay. It's definitely not what it used to be, which is good. But fair nerf. Alright, so we're going to kind of just skip over these housings and furnishing and titles and whatnot. Not really too interested in those. This stuff involves the new season of Dragon Quest, which you can accept outside of your starting cities, I believe. Anyway. Yeah, first major city of your alliance that you unlock. So basically, Glenumbra, Davin's Watch, and Vocal Guard. So it's all good. All good little thing there, but we're gonna pass that. This is what people have been calling pay to win, by the way. I've been seeing people crying about this being pay to win so much recently. And it's that they added the ability to buy skill lines now that you've previously unlocked on other characters, just like they did with the Sky Shards. They did this with Alliance War, Dark Brotherhood, Thieves Guild, Fighters, Ledger Domain, Mages Guild, and Undaunted. Yes. Yes. And that Psijic, Soul Magic, Vampire, and Werewolf will be coming in a future patch. Overall, I don't mind this. I'm not bothered by this at all. I don't see how this could be even possibly misconstrued as pay to win. I mean, you have to have still done it once before on a character. And it provides no advantage. Once I do it, once I do this, which could take me a couple days at max to pull one of these off. Like, Undaunted takes me like 3 days if I'm grinding it out. Fighters Guild takes like... Fighters Guild I never grinded, just passively levels. Alliance War passively levels. Mages Guild's a pain, but it is what it is. It takes a few hours, like 8 hours to level or something. I don't see this as pay to win. I think this is a good change overall, and it's going to help people who are apprehensive to grind out alts, but happen to have a lot of crowns from the ESO Plus building up. I think it's going to be it's a good addition. Something I would consider doing if I had extra crowns to burn, and had literally nothing to put them into. So hopefully, I can't wait for them to add the other skill lines, though. I don't think Soul Magic was really needed. I mean, you gotta do the main quest line. I guess you gotta do the main quest line to get Soul Magic, so I can understand that being annoying to people. But to me, like, I will always do the main quest line for Soul Magic if I want it. Specifically because I want those skill points that come with the main quest line. But this is the one I would buy. Honestly, like, if I was gonna buy anyone for an alternate character, I would buy Undaunted. I would always buy Undaunted. It's such a pain in the ass to level. Such a pain in the ass. The rest of them, I could take or leave. I really don't care. But Undaunted is one I would definitely pay. What else do we got down here? Questing. Alright. So, guys, we are about to go into the Necromancer changes. And there's one thing in here that I want you guys to know. They nerfed the AoEs. Don't let that scare people. I know a lot of people freak out when they see a class nerf sometimes. Obviously, I don't think you guys will, but this video is also going up on YouTube, so this is talking to the general everyone. Every class got this treatment. Every AoE in the game has gotten this treatment, so it's not just Necromancer. And there's a lot of other single target dots that have been added to the game to help compensate for single target fights and whatnot. And actually probably are going to make you a lot stronger in single target fights. But Blast Bones, they removed the delay from the skeleton after it's summoned. This is what I said bugged the pathing. This is how it was patch day, or the first week of the old PTS where Necromancer was. This is what Blast Bones was like. They put it back. Thank God. I really, really hope this fixes all the problems with Blast Bones, because this should fix most of them. This should fix most of them. They basically just undid what they changed. Granted, Blast Bones still a little squishy. Still can die. Don't like that, but I mean, at least now it might be reliable. They also increased its maximum leap distance to 7 meters from 5, so to reduce situations where Blastbone becomes confused on what to do, causing it to stand still, pondering its own existence. Good changes all around. But Boneyard, they increased the cost of this ability by about 200. They decreased the damage per tick by 32%, but they did increase the bonus damage modifier for consuming a corpse to 50% from 20%. Yeah, like I said, AoEs took a fat nerf this patch. Just saying that right now. They took a fat nerf this patch, but this is going to be across the board to every class. So, Pestilent Colossus. Reduce the escalating damage bonus of each hit this morph deals. Total adjustment will result in approximate 5% damage reduction. Okay. I don't really see the reason for this change, to be honest. I really don't. The actual damage of the ultimate is not the main reason to run this ultimate anyway. It's, I mean, I guess it's good damage, but you're running this for that major vulnerability. So I couldn't care less about the 5% mitigation, to be perfectly honest. Oh my god, pay to win, stop making this game alt-friendly. Just like they did with one Tamriel, you're ruined, you say. Pretty much. Pretty much. Skeletal Mage, this is kind of nice. Increase the base cost of the ability to 4,300 from 2,400. This is a big cost increase on this thing. And increase the damage per tick by 90%. This thing needed a massive damage increase. Whether the cost increase justifies it or not, I don't know. But the damage increase was definitely needed. And they changed it where the Skeletal Archer doesn't scale as much damage per hit anymore. When it ranks up to 5, it's only half of what it used to be. So, I guess that's, is what it is here. But, regardless, they got a good damage buff. They needed it. I still think they need to add some way to target with this skill, though. As it is right now, it still only attacks the closest thing, and I would really like them to add some way to control it. Like, just attack who I heavy attacked, or attack who I use the pet controls on. That way you can kind of control where this dot is going. But regardless, I do consider this a buff despite the cost increase, and this is why. Shocking Siphon. These morphs, or these abilities, no longer have a resource cost, and now scale off your highest offensive stats. They also decrease their damage per tick. So, the tether skills, this applies to both the damage one and the healing one, wherever the hell it is, down here. Both of them are free now. The Mystic Siphon now restores 35 magic per tick rather than 75, and the same treatment was done to the stamina morph of the tether. They also both scale off your highest offensive stats, so very good for Stamcrow. A lot more healing coming from this skill. Like I said, they're free, which helps out sustain a lot. And they did decrease their healing and their damage by each 14%. God, I can't talk. 14% each. Holy crap. Overall, I like these. I like the changes to these tethers. Definitely like it. Because now, unlike before, because the old problem with Mystic Siphon was that it gave less magic than it cost. Now it's free and just gives magic. Not as much. Not nearly as much as it gives, but it's free. So it's actually a net gain to keep this skill up rather than before where you were still losing about 1,000 mana. So very good from that. Bitter Harvest, this heal and its morphs will now properly be synced up with your essence you wait, what? The heal from this ability's morph is now probably synced up with the essence you absorb, resulting in less of a delay. Increase the healing per tick by 11%. Very nice. Also note, guys, because this is a max self-scaling heal, they did change this to this patch. All heals that scale off max health now pick your highest crit chance from what, how they crit. So unlike before where this was only scaling with spell crit, it now actually scales off weapon crit too if you're stam. So getting a lot better healing out of Bitter Harvest. Very nice. And Devoutty, you'll like this one. Bone Goliath transformation. Fixed an issue where you could occasionally become stuck as a terrifying giant after casting this ability or its morphs, and never return to your frail humanoid form. You must now find other ways to usher terror into Tamriel. So, I guess they fixed the bug that broke your character. I guess they fixed the bug that completely destroyed your character. So, good to know it can't happen again. Very good to know. And I guess we were correct in assuming it was the Goliath that was causing the humongous bug. But, yeah. Render Flesh fixed an issue where Befouled from the Shadow Tree was applying the minor defile from this in its morphs. That feels bad. Could you imagine you apply this defile to yourself, and then your CP busts the defile you applied to yourself? I did not know that was happening, but I'm really glad they fixed it, because that's really funny. Oh, it's really funny. We've already gone over restoring tether, free, scales up highest stats, decreased healing, and the stamina per tick is 35 rather than 79, which is nice. Spirit Mender, increase the cost of this ability to nearly double. 4,300 from 2,400. And increase the healing per tick by 90%. So Spirit Mender got a fat cost increase, but also a fat buff. Intensive Mender now heals for twice as much per tick rather than 3 times, which means that it's still actually healing for more than it is on live with this change. Because basically, if you go by Spirit Mender on live and Intensive Mender with next patch, Intensive Mender is basically healing 4 times as much
of live Spirit Mender than it is now, than the 3 times. So intensive got buffed by a little bit, and it also costs half, so it's back to the normal cost again. So basically, intensive Mender is going to heal a little more, which is nice. Spirit Mender costs more, but also heals a lot more. Again, super nice. Because Spirit Mender is a little underwhelming on Stam, I'm not going to lie. It's really underwhelming. And since we don't need the extra mag for restoring Tether, it's really nice that this will heal us a bit more. General. Alright, we're just going to pass through that kind of stuff real quick. Nothing really much going on here. Dungeons. Dungeon balancing. No one cares. No one cares about dungeons. Alright. So this is where all the rest of the combat changes are. And I don't understand why Necromancer was pulled away from this, because it left some, you know, like you see the AoE nerfs of Necromancer, and they don't give any description why until you get down to the combat section. I don't know why Necromancer wasn't just in the combat section. Correct me if I'm wrong, but these are just PTS notes, nothing set in stone for the game 100%. Correct. There is still 4 more weeks of PTS notes that are going to come out that could change this in any way, shape, or form. And all, like, literally 100% of this is subject to change. That being said, most stuff that is listed here will come to live in some shape or form. So, you know, it might be different. It might not behave the same way as right now, but the idea behind it will come to live. So, for instance, nerfing the AoEs is probably coming to live. How they're trying to reshape some skills, which I'll go over when we get further down below, is coming to live, probably. But they're going to, over the course of the PTS, they're going to adjust stuff and tweak it to people's feedback and their own testing, see how it goes. But all right, so what did they do? Basically, this entire patch, just to give the too long didn't read here, is that they are that ability audit they were doing for Elsewhere's patch, they are doing it tenfold here. They're going through every ability in the game, specifically dead morphs that people aren't using ever, or dead skills that no one ever uses. And they're bringing them all into the standards to make them all worth something. They're trying to make all abilities useful again. And I really like what they're trying to do here. They also did add in a little note in here that they are not, you know, this does not mean that their standards that they're setting are perfect, and they are more than willing to come back and readjust when they need to. This is just they're trying to put standards in now so they can better balance the game going forward. So, like I said, I like that they added in that that they know that their audits might be flawed and that they're more than willing to come back again. I really like them adding that, because it does give hope that if there's something wrong here, they will come back. But for the most part, a lot of their standards are pretty good. There's a few in here I'll show you guys that are way off and I think can't go to live. But for the most part, what they did with this whole combat section are really nice. So, first thing they did, increase the off balance effect on players to 7 seconds instead of 5. Makes it so you got a little more of a window to work with off balance. Okay, that's nice. They're also still investigating additional ways to make it more obvious when someone is off balance. So again, that'll be super good when they figure that out. This is what I meant. All bleeds now respect the target's physical resistance. Many adjustments have been made to ensure bleeds deal similar damage to other dots now. This is what I said before, when dots now need physical pen as well. Or bleeds anyway. So this is a good change because bleed builds are pretty cancerous. They're also interesting to build around because you don't need a lot of pen for them compared to other builds. So this just reels bleeds in, makes them a lot more predictable in what they're doing, makes them a lot more fair. And as I said, this change was done to reduce the volatility and effectiveness of these abilities in PvE and PvP. We're aware of the concerns of high mitigation that is currently attainable in the game, and we targeted some other areas such as Oblivion damage to offset the loss of these tools in killing tanks. So Oblivion damage will now be the proper tank killer, which we'll get to when we get down to it. You will no longer be stuck sprinting if you manage to be accosted by guards while sprinting, even though you were pretty terrified. Good to know. Ground target abilities will now be unqueued after weapon swapping. This should help reduce situations where we become stuck casting one of those abilities, such as Grand Healing or Lightning Splash. Very, very good change here, because it doesn't happen often, but it's so annoying when it does. It's so annoying. So glad they fixed that. Fix numerous instances of where well-timed ability uses from charges, leaps, teleports, blinks, etc. could allow you to bypass collision. I've seen this before where people phase through stuff. It's kind of funny looking. I guess it's good that it's fixed, but it kind of removes the humor of it, I suppose. Alright, so this is the part that talks about the AoE damage over times. Many damage over times abilities, both single target... You know, I'm not going to highlight it. It's really hard to read that way. Anyway, many damage over time abilities, both single target and AoE effects, have been re-standardized to follow similar behaviors to other types of abilities. AoEs will now be 33% weaker than their single dot counterparts, and also cost 30% more. Also, all dots are now their cost is being adjusted based on their duration. So the longer they last, the more they cost. So in case you're wondering why some stuff got cost increased while other things get a cost decrease, it's because they're trying to bring it in where everything has equal effect based on your sustain and whatnot. You know, an 18-second dot might cost a lot, and deal the same damage as a 10-second dot, but the 10-second dot will be significantly cheaper. So I think that's a good change. I think it's good that they're going over and doing this. And I don't really mind them making AoEs weaker. I don't really mind it at all. Yeah, here. The duration of these overtime effects were equated into their total cost per second rather than simply following a base it's a dot catch-all cost. You can expect to see many adjustments to abilities of this nature in this update. We've also rebalanced more of these ability types in the game to help all classes gain access to sources of them and reduce situations where these abilities were being merely used for passive slots. This is what I said. They actually, believe it or not, they added a lot of useful skills. So anyway, adjusted animations to cast time for many ultimates meant to have a high impact to better synchronize their attacks with their animations. These abilities cannot be interrupted, but canceling them will be stopped. Canceling them, if you cancel these, you will not consume your ultimate. Basically, Dawnbreaker, Incap, Berserker Strike, Soul Shred, and Lacerate. So the dual wield ultimate, the Soul Assault ultimate, the two-hander ultimate, Nightblade's Incap, and Dawnbreaker all have a half-second cast time now. But it cannot be bashed, it cannot be stopped, and if you cancel it, you won't lose your ultimate, which has happened before with Dawnbreaker, where if you cancel Dawnbreaker too quickly, you can consume your ultimate and not get the effect. So this is a really, really... It feels bad you can't cancel Dawnbreaker anymore, but it's really nice that you can't lose the ultimate accidentally either. You know that you may not agree with these notes, but it sounds like they're trying to make everything more well-rounded. Yeah, for the most part, this patch is really nice. This patch is really nice. I'm 99% positive about this patch. There's only 2 changes in here that I'm going to show you guys when we get to them that I don't agree with. But the rest I'm okay with. Improve the responsiveness for leaving or CC breaking and knockup, such as Dizzying Swing or Draining Shot. And increase the standard range of knockback to 8 meters from 6. Fix numerous issues where area effect based damage over time abilities were being considered direct damage in some circumstances. That's good. Pets will now properly gain 5,000 extra health from Battle Spirit rather than having their max health increase but not actually getting the extra health without healing. Fix an issue where telegraphs of area effect abilities would occasionally not appear in some PvP areas. This is really nice because this is a problem sometimes where you'll see the effect on the ground. It is an enemy effect, but there's no red indicator telling you to get the hell out of it. So they fixed that, which is really nice. Sources of stamina, health, and magic cost reduction that are obtained from passive abilities or item sets are now all multiplicative rather than being a mixture of additive and multiplicative. This was done to simply prevent things where you could get an ability cost down to 0 by stacking enough sources of this. So basically just kind of fixing the ability to cheese this a little bit and making it a little more obvious what's going on, which is nice. The sets include things like Unholy Knowledge, Restoring Spirit, Vampire Lord set, Armor of the Seducer, and the Eyes of Mara set, which they also changed the stats a little bit to make them a little better. They did increase them to make them fit a little better and actually do more. So good changes. Most of these sets are kind of bad. Honestly, like almost all these sets are really bad. But regardless, it's kind of nice that they're buffing them a little bit to make up for the fact that they're no longer additive. Resource agnostic sources of healing will now use your highest critical strike chance rather than defaulting to your spell crit only. So any heal that has max health will now scale based off your highest crit chance. Very, very nice. God, I need water already. Holy crap. Throat's starting to tear up doing this. Let's see here. Abilities listed below are now will now properly use precise strikes to scale rather than Elfborn since they are stamina abilities. Leeching Strikes, Killer's Blade, Dark Exchange and Dark Conversion, Ruinous Scythe, Absorb Missile, and Draining Shot. Nice. Okay, this is kind of sad. I didn't realize Draining Shot scaled off Spell Crit. That's kind of funny. That's really nice that they're changing that. Really nice, because that would suck. All right, so the way they changed it, I'm not gonna go over all Oblivion damage here because this is a long section. But the too long didn't read here is that Oblivion damage now has a scaling component to it. So against a low health target, you're not going to deal much damage, but against a high health target like a PvP tank, you're going to hit really hard. There is a damage cap. So for instance, Oblivion enchants are capped at 4,800 damage as the highest they can possibly go. But they do 3.75% of the target's health at legendary quality. So you do a nice little chunk of damage, but it does have a cap still, which is good. It caps higher than other elemental glyphs do. But like I said, it only works against super high health targets. Like, you gotta be super high health to hit this. Slodes now just simply does 3% of your target's max health per tick rather than what it did before. The max health is capped at 3,000 per tick. Night Slayer now can deal damage to anything rather than just players. It caps out at 8,000 damage and does 8% of the target's max health with a fully charged heavy attack. But like I said, capped at 8,000, so you can't cheese it on world bosses and whatnot. Anything else we got down here? Buffs and debuff. Major heroism fixed issues where multiple sources of this could stack. Very rare, but it does come up apparently. Lifesteal now scales off your highest crit chance. Okay, the class changes. This is where the fun stuff begins. Dragon Knights, Combustion. Decrease the cooldown from this passive to 2 seconds from 5. This was done to help alleviate many of the duration-based ability cost increases, as well as helping the passive synergize with more build customization. That's cool. So basically what Combustion does is you get 500 mana or 500 stamina back for applying a burning or stamina status effect. 500 stam for the poisoned and 500 mana for the burning. All they did now is that this can happen every 2 seconds rather than 5. So it's a nice little sustain boost if your build's built around a lot of fire damage or a lot of poison damage. It's really nice. Fiery Breath. So Noxious, Engulfing. Increase the cost of this ability. Its morphs by about 100. It's not a lot. Little cost increase. And decrease the dot damage by 15%. Since it's an AoE dot, makes sense. Lava Whip. Reduce the stacking spell damage bonus this passive gives to 75 from 125. We all knew this was coming. There was no way Molten Whip was going to stay in the state it was. It was allowing, still good. Still very good. It's still going to be super strong. But it's not going to have as ridiculous spell damage attached to it anymore. So, no more Stam DKs equipping this is probably what I'm getting at. I don't think I'd equip this as a Stam DK anymore. But it was funny while it lasted. Searing Strikes. This is your Claw dot, like Burning Embers and Venomous Claw. Increase the cost by a decent little chunk. 2,160 from 1,350. And increase the damage by 26% per tick. Holy crap, that dot's going to hit hard. Very nice. Very nice. This is what I mean by that. It said they're buffing all single target dots and bringing them all to a more damage or, to make up for the fact that your AoEs don't hit as hard anymore. Holy. Yeah. Burning Embers is going to be nice on Mag DK. Going to be a lot of healing coming out of that. Ash Cloud. So this got the general standardization of the other AoEs. Increased the cost of 5,600 from 4,500. This is because this thing lasts like 18 seconds. And reduce the damage it does and healing it does to bring it down in line with their AoE standards. The healing morph is still basically identical, but the damage morph is weaker. Fossilize or Petrify and its morphs. Increase the cost by about 1,000. The ability no longer ranks up in cost reduction, but instead in damage done. And reduce the range of this ability by 1 meter. And Shattering Rocks fixed an issue where the heal from this ability was missing a previous rank up, which resulted in an approximate 3% increase in healing. Nice. So Fossilize got a little bit of a nerf. It's not big, but it's a little nerf. So, there is that. Night Blades. Grim Focus, your spectral fixed an issue where the spectral bow from this ability and its morph could consume all of your stacks even if you failed to fire the projectile. Thank God. That was so annoying. That was so annoying. Because what would happen is you cast your bow, and if they happen to line of sight you right as you cast it, it would consume your stacks and do nothing. So that is so nice. I am so happy to see that fixed. Or at least I hope that's what this fix means. Either way, really, really good. Reduce the amount of mitigation from the stacking bonus these abilities provide. So you'll cap out at 10% rather than 15%. I guess people were complaining about how tanky stand blades had become and how tanky mag blades were. So overall, I'm okay with this though. As you guys will see, healing sources got some healing sources got buffed. So this doesn't really matter too much. Mark target. This ability and Reaper's Mark are now considered 1 negative effect rather than 3. Okay, that's nice for purging it, I guess. It's really nice. That's basically all there is here. Teleport Strike. Lotus Fan decreased the damage of the dot by 22% and fixed an issue where the final tick was not being affected by minor vulnerability. Lotus Fan's an AoE dot, so it got reduced. Makes sense. Sealed Weapon. Fixed an issue where casting ability from crouch would apply the stun but not animate the stun. Ooh, I want to know what the animation looks like. I'll have to test that. Twisting Path, being an AoE, got its damage reduced by 14%. Refreshing Path got buffed by 29%, but they fixed a bug where you could get double healing. So, Refreshing Path is going to be more reliably better, but there's no more spikes of healing from it, which I'd never noticed because I didn't use Refreshing Path after they changed it. But regardless, a Refreshing Path buff, Twisting nerfed a little bit. Shadow Cloak. Fixed an issue where this ability and Shadowy Disguise would fail to cast if you had Prevent Attacking Innocence turned on. That's nice, because that's really freaking annoying, so I'm glad to see that fixed. This ability and Shadowy Disguise now just last 3 seconds at base and are no longer affected by the Dark Field passive. This was done to help low-level characters utilize the skill. This is actually really nice, because what happens is when you have level 1 stealth, and you don't have your passives yet, stealth only lasts like 1.8 seconds or something like that. It's really, really, really short. And you have to wait for all your passes and ranks to come in to get it to 3 seconds. So good change, good change. Summon Shade. They increased the cost drastically by about 1,300. And they reduced the damage of Dark Shade by a little bit. Reduced the damage. That's just the same damage. The area effect now deals the same damage as the normal attack. Okay. So it's AoE. And they reduced its AoE, no longer gets the damage buff, and overall it just does less damage. Okay. Siphoning skill line. Power Extraction. This morph no longer increases the damage dealt by the attack, but instead reduces weapon damage of enemies hit by 300 for 8 seconds. I don't know what the damage buff used to be. I'm not sure. So I don't know if this was a worthwhile trade or not, but for group play, this is actually something nice that Nightblades bring now. Actually something a Standblade brings to a BG team. Passive damage mitigation by reducing enemies' damage. This could be interesting. I don't know how much they're trading, how much damage they just traded for this, but I'm curious. This could be interesting. Cripple. They decreased the cost by about 300 and increased the damage by 17% per tick. Crippling Grasp. Increased the initial hit by 37%, but it decreased the dot damage by 2%. So, buffs to single target dots, just like I said with the standards up above. Sorcerers. Crystal Shard. Decreased the base cost of this ability by 600 and decreased the damage by 10%. The AoE one that no one uses, the AoE portion of this ability now deals full damage on the initial hit, or just like the initial hit. That's good for Sorc Bombers there. And Crystal Frags. Increase the damage dealt by this proc to 33% from 20%. This is to retain the damage it has on live. So basically what happened here is if you were using Crystal Fragments, if you hard casted this, it's weaker. But if you wait for the proc, it's pretty much identical to live. So really no big hard changes here. Just a nice little fix, basically. Ward. They reduced the size of this ability and empowered Ward by approximately 18% and increased the cost by 800. Holy crap. 800 increased mana to cast these wards now, and they're weaker. These changes were done to make them more comparable to a damage shield burst heal standard. Empowering Ward. The final cost of the ability is now 3,700, and it no longer gains the increased shield size as it ranks up, since it already has the cost reduction. Hardened Ward, reduced the shield size by approximately 9%. So, Sork Shield's got a little bit of a nerf. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Summon Familiar. Now, this was something I saw. Pets got nerfed a bit. So, decrease the special ability, or the cost of this ability, to 2,800 from 3,500. So, 700 cost decrease on activating the Volatile Familiar. And increase the damage per tick by 8%. But reduce the damage per tick of Volatile by 3% since it was using the wrong rank up. Don't know what that means. I really don't know what that means, but I guess it got a small damage increase overall, so good on it. Summon Unstable Clan Fear. Reduce the healing granted from this special activation of this ability by 14% to ensure it's in line with other burst heal abilities such as Rush Ceremony or Dragon's Blood. Oh, feels bad, man. Feels so bad. Oh well. That sucks. I wonder if that 14% is... Does that mean that's... I'm assuming that just means it's 14% of less of what it is on live, or is that actually like 14% less max health that it's scaling off of? Depending, the wording is a little unclear. I'm assuming it's just 14% weaker than it is on live, which is fine. You know, I'll still be critting like 33k heals on live if this, or on PTS then, if that's the case. If they actually neutered the scaling, however, this is gonna make major feels bad. We'll have to see. Either way, still big heal, so not horrible. Twilight and its morphs. Basically, the matriarch, or the base morph and the heal morph lost 69% of their damage, and the tormentor lost 35% of its. So Pet Sork's taking a massive damage nerf here. Not saying it didn't need it, and Pets as a whole did need looked at. But this is not the way I would have gone about nerfing Pet Sorks. Granted, maybe this is a PvE nerf, I'm not really sure. But for PvP, this is not what I was complaining about with Pet Sorks. Their damage is a little obnoxious, yes. But it's the line of sighting that's the problem. I really wish they would just make these pets untargetable and unkillable. And then see if they need damage changes, you know? That's kind of what I want. Because that would do a lot to bring them back in. And they actually did do the they took away the targetability from werewolf pets, which we'll get to later down the line. So I know they can do it. And they might. So hopefully that's a consideration of theirs, that they'll actually remove the line of sighting from pets, and then maybe buff the damage back up a bit. Like I said, this is not the nerf I would have started with on Pet Sorks. Bolt Escape. This ability in its morph can no longer be blocked. See, it doesn't make sense. I thought this was already unblockable. Apparently it wasn't. So very, very glad to see that they actually made it where streaks are guaranteed stun now, because that's what it's supposed to be. Previously, these abilities could be blocked without draining resources. While investigating this issue, they determined that the theme of charging into a group of enemies as a pure ball of energy should not be I can't pronounce that. Cannot be stopped by a measly shield. I can't pronounce thwarted. Damn it! I used to be able to, and now I can't. Bolt Escape Fatigue. So this is the morph that does not stun along the line. Reduce the ramping cost of this ability to 33% per stack rather than 50, so it operates closer to roll dodge. Okay, good change, especially since it's the defensive morph. Good change. Overload. Fix an issue where the heavy attack augment of these abilities was not gaining the 70% damage increase from attacking off-balance enemies. Okay, so nice for Mag Sorks using this skill. Get a little more damage out of it. They also updated it so it actually can hit dragons. Their AoE got a cost reduction of 500 and a damage reduction of 37%. Ouch. Just like the other AoEs of the other classes, got reduced by a nice healthy chunk, so rip. Templars, Adric's Spear, puncturing strikes to be or the Adric's Spear skill line, puncturing strikes skill. Wow, I am such a mushmouth tonight. Reduce the cost of his ability by 200. Biting Jab still retains the 15% cost reduction. So no big change there. Spear shards decreased the cost by 200 and reduced the damage by a lot. 37% from luminous and 42% from blazing. Holy. So these AoEs do a lot less damage than they used to. That's going to be noticeable. The passive spear wall increased the duration of minor protection granted to 3 and 6 seconds instead of 1.5 and 3. So they doubled the duration of Templar's minor protection. Very nice. Dawn's Wrath. I read these changes already on Eclipse, and you guys are going to have to tell me your opinions on this one. Rework this ability and its morphs, so you now envelop your target in a sphere of darkness for 4 seconds, which harms them anytime they use a direct damage attack. Their first attack causes the sphere to hinder them, reducing their movement speed by 30%. The second attack causes the sphere to entangle them, immobilizing them. And then the third attack causes the sphere to smother them, stunning them for 3 seconds. Each effect can only occur once, or the effects can only occur once every second, so it's going to take 3 seconds to get all 3 effects. And the sphere is no longer CC breakable early. You have to wait till it actually stuns you to break it, but it can still be cleansed. Interesting. So basically they buffed Eclipse, basically, is what this is. It doesn't heal you as a base morph anymore. Or it's not as, it's not as potent, but it also is no longer breakable early. I mean, you can actually put this on people and still stun them. Alright, Total Dark. Rename this morph to Living Dark. You now envelop yourself in darkness for 4 seconds. So no longer are you putting this on the enemy, you're putting on you. Anytime an enemy hits you with direct damage, they immobilize themselves and you are healed. This can occur every half second, but it's reduced compared to Live's healing, which could occur every 0.75 seconds. Now, the Unstable Core morph is the offensive morph. Each time the sphere activates one of these CCs listed above, they will take damage. This damage scales based on which stage the sphere is currently in, so the further along they are, the more it hits. This could be really strong. Eclipse could be really strong or really weak. It kind of just depends. I was watching some other people's reviews on this, and honestly, like, the one thing that came up that I gotta kind of wonder about is what's to stop someone from spamming this on you, and also how does this interact with CC immunity? Can I put this on a person even if they're CC immune? Can I not put this on a person if they're CC immune? It doesn't really say. It doesn't say it in the developer comment either. So I'm gonna take the assumption that you cannot put this on someone who has just been stunned by it. If you can, this will be overpowered. If you can't, it'll be okay. Solar Flare, they increased the damage of this in the Dark Flare morph by 4%. Solar Barrage, because it's an AoE, they reduced the damage by 33%. Not sure about something not being CC breakable. Well, you can break it once it stuns you. So that's not a problem. But the way Sphere works on live is that once it's on you, you can break it regardless of what's going on. So what they did now is that until it stuns you, you can't get it off. You have to wait it out until it stuns you. Basically is what happened. That or you can cleanse it. So the breaking free is not the problem. I'm wondering, can I put this back on person so they keep damaging themselves? Even if they can't stun themselves again for another 6 seconds, could I get them to keep damaging themselves? That's mostly what I'm concerned about. I'm assuming you can't put this on someone who has CC immunity. So I'm just gonna assume that. But either way, it's gonna be a good skill. I like the changes if it works like that. Sunfire reduced the cost by about 330, I guess. And increased the damage by 17%, but reduced the initial hit by 17%. Nice. So more damage overall, but less upfront. Can deal with that. Backlash being an AoE heal from the Purifying Light morph. Decreased the healing per tick by approximately 29%. So, more AoE reduction. Does it wear off after a certain time, even if it doesn't stun? Yes, it only is up for 4 seconds. It wears off after 4 seconds, no matter what. Cleansing Ritual. They increased the cost, but, so this is, Templar Self-Purge. Very nice. They increased the healing per tick by nearly double. This is going to be a good day to be a Stamplar, I'm just saying. Hey. Ah, cool. Thank you. So, good day to be a Stamplar, guys. If you're playing one, your healing problems might have just been solved by this. Because now you've just got a nice little buff to healing. About a quarter of your healing got buffed. I'd say about you got an extra fourth worth of healing there. Or whatever. 30 your healing. I don't know the exact. I'm dumb. Anyway, you got a nice healing buff. It's really nice. This page missed the big one there. Also, restoring aura fixed an issue where minor endurance and intellect from this ability were stacking with other sources. Oops. Good thing to fix. And Honor the Dead fixed an issue with this ability would cause animation stutters when attempting to cast this on a target who had misform up. Okay. These are bugs I never noticed. But yeah, Cleansing Ritual, guys. This is a good heal now. It's really nice. And it scales off of your highest stat for the heal as of last patch. So, like I said, Stamplars, nice buff to healing. Alright, Wardens. Advanced species, they reduce the damage increase per animal companion ability slotted to 2% from 3. So you guys lost 1% per animal companion ability on your front bar. Fixed an issue with the Feral Guardian where it did that super attack. And its attacks will become desynced or stuck after using. Okay, so this will result in higher damage per second for the Grizzly. This will now perform the action prop. This will now be able to perform its next action more frequently. So Bear got a little fix that ends up being a bit of a buff. That's good. Swarm increased the cost of this ability and its morphs by about 270, and increased the damage per tick by 17%. Growing Swarm. This ability can now affect any nearby target from patient 0 rather than only 6 enemies. So, very, very powerful Zerg killing dot. Magdans can infect entire Zergs with this now. This is going to be freaking hilarious. Nature's Grass. Decreased the heal over time with this ability. Is morphed by 24%. Rip the dream. Rip the dream for stand and heals, man. It's still going to be a great skill, but it's no longer a second vigor running. Man. I figured they'd catch on to that really quick. I figured that was going to get nerfed the next patch, but it's still sad to see. Bursting Vines. To compensate Magdan losing some of this, they got an extra increased burst heal by 13%. That's good. Arctic Wind. This heal over time from this ability and its morphs has been increased by approximately 66%. It'll now start scaling the heal at 5% of your max health per tick rather than 3%. Nice. So more healing for Warden tanks. Very, very nice. Icy Escape. I guess the weird morph of Frozen Device. Fixed an issue where the synergy was not being properly recognized by conditional bonuses, such as when activating synergy. Okay. And Impaling Shards, again, got the AoE nerf. Big damage nerf. Well, correction. The base morph got its damage increased, actually. It also went up by 1,000 in cost. Winter's Revenge got its damage nerf, like all the other class AoEs. So. But again, single target got buffed, and once we get into the guild skill lines, you guys will see we have more single target dots now to work with. Alright, Berserker Strike. This ability as morphs will now deal damage in a 5-meter radius if the initial hit was successful. Note the initial hit can still be dodged since the initial attack is not an AoE. So this is the two-hander ulti. Basically, this is now a little miniature nuke on enemy teams rather than just one person. And Onslaught. This morph no longer refunds cost if you gain the killing blow with it. Instead, it converts the physical and spell or spell resistance into physical and spell penetration. So this is an offensive morph that basically means you have massive pen after hitting someone. This is suspect. This is a little suspect. I'm not gonna lie. Basically what they just said here is that if I walk up and smack some guy with this, I'm gonna hit him pretty hard. I'm gonna hit him really hard because this cuts through all pen or all resistances. However much resist I just cut through, I now add to my penetration for the next 16 seconds. And this is a cheapo. This is 150 cost ultimate. This could be strong. This could be really strong. If it still works where it only comes off the killing blow, it'll be fine because it'll still have that niche condition. But if this is just a flat out, because it actually says it no longer funds ultimate cost on the killing blow, but makes no mention of it further in the patch, or further in the thing here. If this is just flat out, I use this and I get that much pen for the next 16 seconds, this could be a stupid strong ultimate. And I really gonna have to keep an eye on this. This could be too strong. Because you gotta figure this is gonna be... Your classic build that use this will probably not even main two-hander. What they're gonna do... you can onslaught with this off your back bar and then switch to your front bar with spin to win. And just mow over an entire team for free. I mean, DKs can kind of do that with corrosive already, but you've just given corrosive to every class in the game, basically. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how I feel about this change. I hope they keep an eye on it. It might be too strong. Hey, Highlander. How we doing, my man? Finish off a tank and have 30k pen. That's pretty much what I'm looking at here. That scares me a bit. I'll roll with it and see how it looks on PTS. I want to see before I totally judge it, but this is something to be kept an eye on because this could be really freaking strong and more so than it should be. Carve. Reduce the damage of this overtime ability by 9%. Makes sense. It's an AoE bleed. Crit Rush. Increase the damage scaling to 50% from 40, so little damage buff. And Stampede no longer snares enemies hit, but it now instead crushes the earth beneath you upon reaching your target, causing a damage effect to occur, or causing an AoE effect to occur. This ability is balanced around your AoE dot standards. So Stampede now creates an AoE. It's interesting. Due to how much movement is in PvP, I do think Crit Rush is now just the outright better morph. I think taking the snare away has just cemented Crit Rush as the main morph for the gap closer and two-hander now. Because this AoE, unless if it's a really big AoE, most people are going to move out of this. You know, this AoE is not going to be all that great. I don't think, anyway. Maybe it'd be better than I'm giving it credit for. I mean, I guess you don't have to necessarily gap close. You could just do this right in the person's face when you're brawling them. But I would definitely just take... I think for me, I'm taking Crit Rush over this from here on out. Executioner. Increase the execution mod or the execute mod multiplier of this ability to 400% from 350. Nice. So actually have a reason to run Executioner again over Reverse Slice. Very, very nice. You know, actually have a real trade-off between the two. Heavy weapons. The Axe Bleed now ticks every second rather than 2, but has the total, and it has its total damage increased by 24%. So the individual ticks are lower, the amount of ticks is higher, and the total damage over the course of the 8 seconds that the bleed would be happening, I believe it's 8 seconds. The bleed is now 24% stronger basically, but the ticks happen more often, so this is just a total of 24% stronger. It's nice. Bleed's more consistent. The bleed did need a bit of a buff because it got neutered last patch and a lot of people were moving away from axes, so this will kind of bring axes back in line with maces again. Ghost got seriously buffed if all these changes go live. Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Alright. Onto the two-hander change I'm not happy about. Momentum. Reduce the duration of this ability to 20 seconds from 30. Reduce the cost by about 300. This ability and its morphs no longer apply heal over time to you, but instead grant major evasion for the duration of brutality. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Like, literally, I hate this. I don't see a reason why this skill should get major evasion. I don't. There's already 2 non-class dependent sources of major evasion in the game. And honestly, like, we've already been stacking rallies and shuffle. That's already something people stack. Now you have an overlapping buff. I'm not fond of this. The other thing, increase the baseline heal of rally by 100%, but reduce the maximum scaling. So rally will not heal as much as it used to, but it will build the heal up quicker. So rally basically is more healing bursts, but less powerful healing bursts. So rally I could take or leave, but regardless, I don't like this change right here. Like rally and forward, what they did to these is fine. But the base morph and its morphs no longer giving the heal over time and instead just major evasion. I don't like this at all. I hope they go back on this. Uppercut. Reduce the cast time by 0.2 seconds to help reliability when being used in fast combat and melee range. Reduce the cost by 500. Nice. Reduce the cost by 500 and increase the damage by 9%. Very nice. Very nice. Good dizzying swing buff. This ability will no longer rank up in damage and stun duration, but instead ranks up in just stun duration, as that is the morph focus. So dizzying swing. All right. If you go by this, and assuming this is the 1.1% damage increase that like every other skill seems to have, dizzying should have about a 4.5% damage increase. I know that says 9, but if you're going by this, dizzying will have about a 4.5 to 5% damage increase. So either way, very nice. Little damage increase, little faster, cost less. I'm all for a dizzying swing buff. Momentum should give expedition or some kind instead of evasion. It goes with the name as well. Maybe no, not minor expedition. Because that's a sort unique buff. Dude, honestly, I wish they'd just go back to the heal over time. Because shuffle now gives major expedition as well. So again, overlapping buff is the problem. You got overlapping buffs. Like there's people who stack rally and shuffle, and right now it's really freaking weird. I'm not gonna lie, it's just really weird. I don't like it. I don't think that major evasion should be on that skill. That, and unfortunately, the other thing that's happened here, when you have major evasion now on like literally no stamina build will not have major evasion. There will literally be not a single stamina. There's not a single stam spec in the game that will not have major expedition now. Or major evasion, I mean. Because they're either going to have shuffle or they're going to have momentum of some kind. And on top of that, we just nerfed every AoE in the game. And on top of that, we just nerfed every single AoE in the game. I think this is a really heavy double whammy to any... Like, this is a massive double slap from any, from every single, for every AoE-focused PvP build. I mean, I'm okay with that for the most part, because I don't really care about AoE builds. The one nice thing is this means that spin-to-win builds indirectly just got nerfed by a lot. By everyone having major evasion, pretty much. But regardless, I still don't like this. 4 seconds major expedition on momentum. I could see that, but again, shuffle's giving major every time you take dot damage from an AoE now, a major expedition's giving shuffle is giving major expedition now. So I don't think like I said, I don't like this change. I don't like it. I think they should go back to the heal. Caltrops and Endless Hail not worth it anymore. I think they're still gonna be worth it, but for different reasons. Like, so Shulks did not get nerfed. The major evasion's gonna hurt a bit. It's gonna hurt every AoE spec in the game. That includes Blast Bones. That includes this. It's gonna hurt a little bit. But no, they're still 100% worth running. Shulks is really good. PvE is a different story, and that's where Endless Hail's really... Like, Endless Hail has no place in PvP for the most part. It really has no place. Caltrops does a little bit, but not Endless Hail. But... And that one might be a little weaker now. But no, Shulks is fine. It did not get a damage nerf because it's a burst skill, and it and evasion is gonna nuke Shulks a little bit, but you mean for PvE? I gotta go over those real quick. I don't quite remember the numbers. So let me get through them, but I think the way they've balanced the AoE versus single target dots now by adding more single target dots to the game that both Stam and Mag can pull from. Basically what's going to happen here is it's going to come down to fight knowledge. If you know the next room you're about to go into is going to have a lot of ads, AoE is going to be important, and you're going to put AoE on your bars. But in single target bosses or bosses with maybe only like 1 or 2 ads where you can burn them down pretty carefully anyway, I think people are going to replace their AoEs with or replace all but like one of their AoEs with the new dots, you know. I think that's what's going to happen here. is that the PvE DPS meta is going to change, so that way whenever you're in a single target fight, you're going to slot all the single target dots, and when you're in an AoE fight, you're going to slot your AoEs. I don't think you're going to have quite as static of a bar setup anymore. But like I said, we'll get to the AoEs when we get to them, and we'll see exactly how bad it is. One-handed shield. By the way, guys, sword and board is weird now, so just letting you guys know. There's a lot of weirdness in here. Defensive posture. Rework this ability and it's morphed into a real damage shield rather than a weird buff. Very good. These abilities no longer passively reduce the cost of block and increase the amount you can block while they're slotted. That sucks. Reduce the duration of the bonus from this ability to 6 seconds from 30, and increase the cost to 4,300 from 2,400. Holy crap, that is that's a significant cost increase. Okay. This damage shield scales off 30% of your max health, similar to other damage shields like Bone Shield and Sun Shield. The ability will continue to reflect once, but now will reflect any projectile rather than only a spell. And the reflecting attack does not consume the shield. Okay. Apologies for the crashing sound, guys. Defensive stance. This ability no longer stuns the target if you successfully reflect, but instead this morph reintroduces the passive that will increase your block mitigation and cost reduction by 10%. Okay, good. So it's still there somewhere. And absorb magic now has become absorb missile. Reduce the damage shield size to 30% from 50. Didn't it already say it? Oh, because I guess absorb magic had a higher one. And increase the heal granted by 29%. Very nice. And will no longer remove the damage shield. Very nice. Absorb missile got better. Very nice. You mean how often does that happen? Usually bosses have a lot of ads that go along with them and mechanics. Who is the cat? It's gonna come along as a on a per boss basis. There's some bosses that literally they're the only thing there, you know? It's like what Highlander said. On single target bosses, you're still likely gonna run one AoE, maybe two. But you're not gonna blanket your bar with them anymore. You're gonna mostly be running single target on bosses that don't have more than a couple ads. And this will be done specifically just to optimize your damage, I think. I said overall, the DPS meta is shifting. It is definitely going to be shifting with this patch if it goes live in the state. Which I'm okay with. I'm okay with, to be honest. I mean, power creep's getting really bad. So, nerfing AoE damage is not a bad way to go about helping it a bit. But I really do hope that they start targeting the CP system, because that's really where the power creep... Mixture of brand new powerful sets and CP is what really hammers the power creep. It's not just CP, it's not just the sets. It's a mixture of both. But I guess starting with bringing AoEs down does... AoEs being reduced does make a lot of sense, because obviously they're AoE, they deal their full damage. They do damage to everything in the area, so it does make sense they're less than single target. So we'll have to just see how it goes, you know? We got to see what happens here. But PvE meta might shift a bit because of it. Anyway, sorry guys about that, a long thing. Back to the sword and board things. Fortress, increase the cost reduction from this passive to 7 and 15% rather than 10. So basically the cost reduction passive got buffed, nice. Low slash, so basically heroic slash and deep slash. Low slash, reduce the damage dealt from this ability and heroic slash morph by approximately 31%. These two abilities will no longer snare targets. Okay, so the base scale and heroic slash morph got nerfed in damage. And heroic slash got it where their minor heroism now lasts 12 seconds rather than 9. Nice. Deep slash retains the original damage of the skill. This ability will now hit all targets in a 6-meter radius of your target instead of only 2 targets. And this morph now does the same damage to all targets hit rather than 40%. And this morph retains the 30% snare. And deals our AoE damage standard. So it might have gotten nerfed a little bit still. Deep Slash is probably what you're going to run in PvP now. If you're going to run one of these two, I do think Deep Slash might be better unless you're specifically after the heroism. Because Deep Slash actually has a nice little AoE spammable purpose now. It's kind of interesting. which is good. Running AoEs as the answer for everything is a bit boring anyways. I think it's okay because, like, exactly like that. It's going to add more build variety. It's going to add more, change your bars before a fight, I mean, it's going to be a little annoying on console. I really do hope they start adding bar presets. But it's going to change the meta a little bit, and we'll have to see how it goes. Power Bash. This is the weird one, by the way. So, Shield Bash, reverb and whatnot. Anyway, Power Bash is now considered a spammable attack, and the adjustment has been made to properly place it in that category. This ability no longer stuns at base, and increase the damage dealt by all versions of the skill by 94%. Oh. Reduce the cost by 1,000. So overall, Power Bash getting a fat buff at the base level. Reverberating. This morph retains the stun with a max duration of 3 seconds, but it no longer applies Major Defile. The initial hit damage is now halved. This will do half the damage up front, and the other half when the stun ends. If the target is CC immune, you will not get the second half of the damage. Unless you want the stun, I think reverb's kind of not... There's no real point of slotting reverb anymore. You're better off getting a different stun. You don't think AoEs was the answer for everything, at least not in your case, maybe for a Sork. But only AoE skills used with Shock, Endless Hail, and Caltrops. Caltrops and Endless Hail are purely added damage to complement your main attack. That's the point, though. Those skills are... Endless Hail does more damage than a single target dot on live, for the most part, Endless Hail is one of the hardest hitting abilities in the game. So is Caltrops. That's kind of what this is talking about, They're AoE skills that hit as hard or harder than a single target skill. That's kind of why these are getting changed, to make more sense that they're weaker than a single target, which does make sense to me, it does make sense. It's going to shake the meta a little bit, but it does make a lot of sense that an AoE skill shouldn't hit as hard as its single target counterparts. It probably just shouldn't, But if you look up people's DPS parses, Light Attack or Endless Hail and Caltrops do sit amongst some of the top things that are, or some of the top hitting damage things they've got going on, which doesn't make any sense when they have single target dots. So like I said, reverb got hammered a little bit. Lost the Major Defile. So Major Defile only comes from... There's only class sources of Major Defile now. You've got Blast Bones is a class source of Major Defile. Soul Harvest is a class source of Major Defile. The Dragon Knight's Standard Ultimate is a class source of Major Defile. Warden's Corrupting Pollen is a class source of Major Defile. Templar's Dark Flare is a class source of Major Defile. And what else? I don't think Sorcerers have any source. I don't think Sorks have any source of Major Defile. But basically the only stamina class that now will have Major Defile outside of a 5-piece set is Necromancer. Magic classes will still live on with other sources of Major Defile. But, yeah, no, the only stam class now with a non-5-piece way to get Major Defile is Necromancer without reverb. Interesting. The AoE changes will add a bit of difficulty to the game, you hope? Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't mind it. Most stuff gets burned before they even have mechanics nowadays. Wouldn't mind it a little bit. And like I said, you can always slot the single target dots to burn a boss down quick. Power Slam. This is the other morph that never stunned in the first place. Reworked this ability in the passive it grants. The passive is now called Resentment. Resentment activation after blocking any attack. Or activates after blocking any attack and grants you 5% additional damage on your next Power Slam. This bonus can stack up to 10 times and last 5 seconds. You only can get one stack every fourth of a second to match the cooldown of block's cost. And yeah, so basically you can block for a couple seconds and then smack someone with Power Slam and it's going to hit like a truck. It's going to hit like a truck. You gotta understand, Power Slam already hit hard on live, and now it's going to hit harder. It's going to hit harder. So this could be interesting. We'll have to see exactly what the numbers are on PTS, because they don't say the exact numbers here.
Power Slam going to hit hard.
You don't understand how I'm calculating that, but by Endless Hail only hits for 1,095 per tick over 10 seconds. The problem with that, Purple, is that, one, you don't spam snipe every thing. You got other things you got to cast, right? Endless Hail continues dealing damage over that 10 seconds. But here's the other big thing. Endless Hail, 1,095 damage per tick. That tick happens every half second. That's 2,000 damage a second, right? It's 2,000 damage a second. That's a very, very, very you're starting to see the problem here, right? That's why it's getting nerfed, is because it does more damage than single target dots. Like, there's single target dots that hit maybe just that hard, which they're getting buffed to hit that hard nowadays. But that's for PvE. The thing is, in PvE, the way to deal the most damage is to stack as many dots as you can while light attacking all throughout it, and then only using a spammable when you have no more dots to stack. That is PvE DPS meta. So, under that, because they keep doing damage while you're stacking other stuff. So you keep stacking multiple sources of damage that have durations. In your spammable, literally, you only ever want to cast the spammable when you have no dots to refresh. That's why, like I said, the AoEs are getting nerfed a bit. Is because right now they're just the strongest source of overtime damage. They just are. So they're getting brought down a peg. Puncture, reduce the damage dealt by this ability by 37%, and also reduce the cost by about 100 or by about 400. Not bad. The puncture is no longer a good spammable. They kind of took that away. Increase the duration of major fracture to 15 from 12. Very nice. Ransack no longer gives minor ward, minor resolve, but instead gives minor protection for 15 seconds. Pierce armor, the breach of this morph now also lasts 15 seconds. Very, very good change here on puncture. Shielded charge. Ability units. They increase the shield size on shielded charge by 25%, and invasion reduced the bonus stun duration to 50% from 88. The max stun will now last 6 seconds rather than 7.52. Okay, not really humongous, nothing horrible here. Invasion got a little nerf, shielded assault got a little buff. Dual wield. Blade Cloak is now considered an AoE dot rather than being a buff. Decrease the duration to 8 seconds from 15. Reduce the cost to 3,000. Increase the damage per tick by 5%, but also increase the tick frequency to 2 seconds instead of 3. Nice, so Blade Cloak ticks more often. Very nice. Quick Cloak. On top of granting Major Expedition for 4 seconds, this morph also extends the duration out to 10 seconds, which ranks up to 12. Okay, very nice. Deadly Cloak. This morph no longer deals increased damage per tick, but instead deals damage every second. Nice, so Dual Wield now has an AoE dot. Dual Wield actually has an AoE dot. Very nice. Very, very cool. That's actually gonna be super useful for activating double glyphs from your back bar. It's gonna be super useful. Heavy attacks. Fix an issue where you can remain in stealth and invisibility after landing a dual wield heavy attack. Oh, rip. That's kind of funny. Hidden Blade. Rework this ability from a ranged spammable into a utility skill. Increase the cost by nearly 1,000. Reduce the range by 6 meters. Reduce the damage dealt by 25%. These abilities now interrupt the target if they were casting an attack. This ability no longer applies Major Brutality instantly. Instead, enemies hit with this ability are marked, and a light attack or heavy attack against a marked target will grant you Major Brutality for 30 seconds. Shrouded Daggers. This ability no longer deals increased damage per bounce, but can interrupt any target hit. This ability now only marks the initial... This ability only marks the initial target instead of any enemy hit with the bounce. Each hit deals their AoE damage standard. Flying Blade. This morph allows you to activate the ability a second time for free on a marked target. This will cause you to gap close to them and gain Major Brutality for 30 seconds. This ability is also not on global cooldown, so it won't screw up your other casting. Okay. Flying Blade is interesting, and that dual wield now has a gap closer. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of this skill. I'm not a fan of what was done here. Mostly because it's just overcomplicating it. It's really, really overcomplicating a skill that didn't need overcomplicated. Like, why do you no longer get the brutality when you activate the skill? Instead, you get it for light attacking someone you've already hit with the skill. Seems weird. Seems really weird. Seems really weird. I don't know. That and the interrupting is kind of really niche, especially for PvP. I don't know. I'm not a fan. The flying blade's interesting, but I'm not really a fan. So we'll have to see what happens here. Lacerate. Increase the size of this ability in the Ren morph. Add an extra meter on it. Nice. Fixed an issue with the heal from these abilities could critically strike. Oh, rip, that was a bug. Oh, that sucks. Okay. Reduce the base damage done. Or Thrive in Chaos. Reduce the base damage done per bonus target hit from 3% or to 3% from 5. This morph no longer increases damage per rank, but instead increases the damage done per bonus target hit per rank. Okay. This morph also converts the attack into a conal attack, which covers a much larger area. Don't know if this is going to help or whatnot, but I still think this is probably going to be a pretty dead skill in PvP, but maybe making it the conal will help a lot. If it's a lot more reliable in where it's hitting, that could help quite a bit. So we'll have to see. Again, this is kind of something we got to see in practice to know how much this cone actually affects this ability. The axe bleeds tick every second now, and total damage is increased by approximately 24%, identical to the heavy attack bleed. Very nice. Twin slashes increase the damage over time by 37%. So single target dot getting nice little buff on top of the fact that now can be affected by resist. It's a very good damage buff that needed to happen. Poison arrow from bow. We're finally into the bow. Bow got some interesting changes. Increase the cost to 2,700 from 2,400 on all morphs. Decrease the initial hit damage by 17%, but increase the damage over time by 78% per tick. Venom arrow. This ability now ranks up in cost reduction, so final cost is back down to what it used to be. And poison injection. Reduce the total execute modifier to 100% from 260%. So poison injection execute damage is weaker, but all other damage is higher. Cool. We'll talk purple. I will come back to the AoE stuff when we get through with the patch notes, if you're all good with that. But yeah, I'll keep talking about it once we get through this and why I think it's okay. So, like I said, there's a lot of changes to go in this patch, and a lot of stuff they're not basically you got to look at the patch as a whole. There's a lot of changes everywhere that I think needs to be talked about, and it's not just like one skill or one class or whatnot. A lot of things got changed. So like I said, that's why I say a lot of the meta will change with it, of what you're actually slotting in your skill slots, rather than just like what classes are good and whether or not, you know, one class got hammered more than another. But like I said, let me keep going through here, and then we will talk about it when we finish, or we're wrapping up near the end. Rapid fire. Increase the damage, or the channel damage from this ability and Toxic Barrage by approximately 11%. Reduce the channel time to 4 seconds. Toxic Barrage. Remove the delay and reduce the damage of the dot by 6%, so it probably deals half the damage of the channeled attack. I'm not really sure what that means. Ballista. Reduce the duration to 5 seconds from 5.5 and fixed an issue where it was double dipping into rank progression, resulting in a minor damage decrease. Scattershot. This ability is now part of the utility category, which changes all 3 versions. Okay. Increase the cost by a lot. Holy crap. Reduce the damage by 10%. Reduce the range by 6 meters. Increase the knockback to 8 meters from 5. Magnum Shot. This morph no longer knocks the caster back. Instead, it deals 20% more damage than the other morph, and reduces the cost to 3,500. So basically, Magnum Shot will do more damage than it does on live, but the other ones will be weaker. Draining Shot. The heal from this ability will now trigger upon dealing damage rather than when the target is actually knocked back. Also decrease the heal by 20%. So Draining Shot is weaker now. It costs more, it's weaker, it has a shorter range, but it's reliable. You don't need to stun the person anymore. And I would overall say I'm okay with that change. I'm definitely okay with that. Like I said, it's weaker, but 100% more reliable. That's amazing. I'll take it. Snipe. Increase the damage by 9% for this ability and its morphs. Okay. I guess all single targets kind of getting buffed this patch. So, okay. We'll have to see how that plays out. But, okay. Volley. This ability and its morphs now deal damage every second rather than every half second. And increase the damage per tick by 11%. This will result in an overall damage loss. Yeah, no kidding. Definitely no kidding. Holy crap. Reduce the base cost by about 700. The range of all morphs is now 28 meters, so increase the range, I believe. Air Barrage. This morph no longer extends duration, but increases the damage per tick by 20%. Endless Hail. This morph no longer grants cost reduction, but now lasts 9 seconds and ranks to 12 seconds. Rather than gaining damage per rank. So, Volley got a fat nerf, much like all other AoEs. Volley got a fat nerf. I'm not sure how much of a damage nerf this is going to actually end up being, but ouch. Definitely an ouch. Destruction Staff. Destructive Touch redesigned this ability as a dot rather than a utility skill. Reduce the cost by 1,300. Reduce the initial hit damage by 17%, but increase the dot damage by 167% per tick. The ability no longer grants additional bonuses depending on staff you're using. More damage per rank. And reduce the range to 15 meters from 17. Okay, so Destructive... We have a new dot as Magicka. Magicka just got a brand new dot. Very nice. This morph Destructive Reef. This morph retains a unique functionality for each staff you choose, but no longer deals damage over time. Okay, this is Clench. Sorry. They have a typo here. This says Destructive Reach, but it's actually meant to be Destructive Clench. Flame Clench knocks the target down and stuns them. Frost Clench immobilizes the target. Shock converts it into an AoE explosion that deals AoE damage. So, guys, I'm iffy on this one here. So, Clench got not only did Clench get actually a range decrease from live. It's now the only way to stun. Flame Clench is the only stun here. Shock Clench doesn't stun anymore. Shock Clench does not stun anymore. That's a big fucking rip. Yeah, that's a big freaking rip. I wonder if that's a typo or something missed in here, but yeah, no, that's a big freaking rip. I don't like that. I don't like that Shock doesn't stun anymore. On top of that, Destructive Reach is now the dot. Is now the dot like the base. So the stun, not only did your options as a stun become significantly lower ranged, but you also have to use a Flame Staff now if you want the stun out of here. I don't like that. I think Shock should still stun like it does on live. If they're gonna stick this out, Shock needs to still stun. In my most humble opinion, that's what needs to happen, because both Necromancers and Wardens, and also Magplars if they're using a Lightning Staff, they use Clench or Reach as a stun. And this just hammered one of their stun options by a lot. I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Shock needs to add the stun back. Well, major evasion in the game right now, Shock sucks anyway. Well, the thing about Shock Staves and why they're good for those three classes I just mentioned, some of their main damage sources are AoE. Wardens, Shulks is AoE. Necromancer Blastbones is AoE. And so is their pet, by the way. Their mage pet. And Magpars are Spambles AoE. So Lightning Staff buffs the damage of their AoEs by 8%. But if they take that Shock Staff, they don't get a stun anymore. If they want to run Destructive Clench, they have to run the Fire Staff for the stun. That's why I'm not a fan of this. I forget if there's another stun added in that they can use now. So I'm going to reserve total judgment until we find if there's another stun in here somewhere. But if there's not another stun in here, then Shock needs to get its stun back. Force Shock. Increase the damage of this ability of its morphs by 11%. Increase the chance to apply the elemental status 10% from 3 for each hit. Nice. Crushing Shock no longer ranks up in damage, but instead decreases in cost, which is very good. And Force Pulse. This ability no longer ranks up in damage of the initial hit, but instead ranks up in cleave damage. Also increases the damage of the cleave attack by approximately 172%. Hot damn, that's nice. Force Pulse is now an AoE monster. This should be interesting. Still a good single target spammable too. Pulsar. Reduce the duration of Minor Mangle to 7 seconds from 30, which ranks up to 10 seconds at max. This morph now also increases the chance of applying elemental type status effect to 15 from 5%. Okay. Wall of Elements. This is the base ability, by the way. Increase the duration of this ability to 8 seconds from 6 seconds. That's what Elemental Blockade used to do. These abilities now rank up in damage per rank rather than cost reduction. Decrease the cost to 3,000. Decrease the damage per tick by 33% in line with all other AoEs. Elemental Blockade. Increase the duration from this ability to 9 seconds, which eventually ranks up to 12. No longer reduces cost per rank. Unstable Wall of Elements. This morph no longer reduces the cost per rank, instead increases the explosion damage. The increased damage of the explosion is approximately 94%. Fixing an issue where the final dot tick was being consumed by the explosion. So Unstable Wall of Elements got a fat buff. That's interesting. Unstable Wall of Elements we might see more use from this. It got a fat buff. I'm intrigued. I am most certainly intrigued by this. That being said, while it did get a fat buff, it still got the AoE nerf that every other AoE just took. So there is also that. Resto Staff. Guys, Resto Staff's going to be a heated topic. It's going to be a very heated topic for some people. So, fair warning before we get into this. Blessing and Protection. They simply reduce the cost. Increase the healing by 10%. The Blessing Restoration Morph increases the healing by 3% again, since it was missing a rank of its progression. That's good. This ability now lasts 16 seconds rather than 15. Combat Prayer. This ability no longer gets increased healing efficiency, but instead reduced cost as it ranks up. This ability's Minor Berserk no longer affects pets, since their owners already give their pets Minor Berserk anyway. Okay. So just little bug fixes and changes here. Force Siphon, the most useless ability of Resto Staff. This ability is morph no longer have a cast time, thank God, since it's purely a debuff skill, such as weakness to elements. The duration of this ability is now begins at 18 seconds and ranks up to 24. Both morphs will rank up to 30 seconds in total. Okay. So they'll be like Ellie Drain, basically. Nice. Fix an issue with these abilities would aggro your target. Good. Quick Siphon says there's no cast time. This ability now grants a new morph effect. Triggering the minor lifesteal debuff will now also grant minor expedition for 4 seconds. This is intriguing. This skill actually might have more uses now. Very nice. I approve greatly of this. Grand Healing. This is one of the triggering ones. Converted this ability into a true AoE hot rather than a hybrid spammable hybrid hot. Increase the duration from 3 seconds to 8 seconds, but you may now only have one active at a time. Reduce the healing per tick by 44%. Reduce the cost by 700. Healing Spring now grants 30 magic every time it heals an ally, rather than restoring 330 for up to 3 allies hit. This will result in higher magic return if you hit all 6 targets for the full duration, but will require more coordination to obtain. Illustrious now increases this ability continues to increase the duration. The new duration is 9 seconds, which ranks up to 12. Okay. So, I've read the full effects, Morse. I'm not a fan of this at all. I'm not even a healer, and I'm not a fan of this at all. It lost the initial tick, as far as I'm aware. You know, it lost its heal over time. Or, correction, it has the heal over time. The heal over time is significantly weaker. It lasts a lot longer, which helps make up for that, because the overall healing will be higher. But this is the real change right here. That fucking sucks. This fucking sucks. You may only have one active at a time. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. This is gonna hurt a lot. Because, like, in PvP, that's one thing. In PvP, that's one thing. I guess if this was a PvP nerf, I get it. I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring this in with their other standard, with their heal over time standards that they have on other AoEs. But I think this should be a rule breaker skill. I think this should be a rule breaker. I don't think this one should have been brought into the standards because this hurts a lot. Because you got to think in trials, there's a lot of vet trials right now. VHoff being one of them, nearing the end boss and a couple other bosses. Cloud Rest being a significant one to talk about on this, and the new Dragon trial. All these trials, healers as an emergency heal during high damage phases, also VAA hard mode, they stack grand healings and they push them around all over the place. So not only can you not stack the healing from this anymore, because you used to be able to have, technically speaking, 3 of these up at a time if you were stacking them fast enough, right? You were able to stack 3 of these if you were casting and spamming them, which was a lot of healing. Basically, like, this ability is going to do a 1/6 of the damage it used, or healing of it that it used to, because it got halved per tick, and you can't stack them anymore. So during a spam, you're not going to be able to use this anymore. But on top of that, you can only have 1 active at a time. So, like, a big thing used to be healers could, say, like, during the dragons, when you stack the 2 groups separately from each other as red dragon, you know, the red dragon there, where there's technically the tank, there's 2 separate tanks in different spots, and then there's 2 different groups of DPS. Healers used to be able to blanket the whole map with healing if they needed to. They could blanket everyone, make sure the healing was spread out. Now you gotta kind of just get really, you gotta be very precise where you put this, and you can't put this on everyone. There's no way you're gonna be able to cover everyone with this ability anymore. I really think this is a rule. This should be a heal, like it's a rule breaker attached to it. It should not. If they want to nerf it, fine. If they want to make it a little worse, fine. But I think it should still be stacked. I think you should still be able to have a lot more. I think this was overkill. I think this was significant overkill. That and this actually plows into another nerf, which we will get into when we get to it, but healing orbs got the same treatment basically. This is 1 active at a time, and this is way overkill. I hope they revert this. This should not go live in the state it's in, because this will literally shit on healers. This hurts. This hurts a lot. Regeneration. Increase the healing per tick by 98%, but reduce the duration to 2 seconds. So now only hit 1 ally per cast. Increase the cost. Rapid regen. This morph now doubles the frequency, but halves the duration. And Immusion. Increase the burst heal this ability by 93%. Guys, we now have a PvP hot again. This is actually worth something in PvP now. This is Magic of Vigor right here. We finally have Magic of Vigor. At least that's what this looks like it's going to be. I have to see the exact tooltip to tell you for sure. But we probably have Magic of Vigor here, which is really fucking nice. It's really nice. This is a really good change to this skill. The 1 ally per cast really sucks. Not because of PvP. PvP, that doesn't matter. In PvE, again, this kind of sucks because, again, you can't put this on. You got only 1 ally you can have regen on. You got 1 of these you can only have down. So this kind of just further barrels into what I was talking about, PvE, grand healing getting slapped. But for PvP, regen's really nice now. Also, Steadfast Ward, this shield strength is approximately increased by 14%, but it's reduced bonus scaling to 100% from 300 to better align with other abilities and reduce polarizing effectiveness it has. We're going to have to see what happens here. This might have been way too much of a nerf to Steadfast Ward. I think this is way too much of a nerf. I don't think the skill needed nerfed in the first place, but this might have been way too much of a nerf. Healing Ward. This morph will no longer heal you after the shield ends because the shield rarely remained that long. That's what we've been telling for a long time. This morph will now heal you once every second for 25% of the remaining shield size, ensuring you at least gain some effectiveness out of it. This is, okay, good and bad with the skill. The base morph, and thus the Healing Ward, the size of the shield got eviscerated. But Healing Ward will actually now heal you, which is what we've been wanting. So Healing Ward, this helps quite a bit. But the overall, we'll have to see how this plays out. It's nice that we're going to get healing from this skill, but the shield size might be hurting too much now. We'll have to see where this ends up. Light armor shield got kind of the same nerfs that Sork shields did. It's not Magic of Vigor unless it's not part of a universal guild ability or not tethered to any class or weapon. Well, it's not tethered to a class. It is tethered to a weapon. But you got to figure that's kind of okay. It's kind of okay considering like Rally is such an important skill for all Stam, and that's tethered to a weapon. But like I said, this has been something that we've been asking for a lot, is to make Mutagen basically Magic of Vigor. So it's really nice to see they're finally doing it. Like, yeah, it's not quite as universal as Vigor, but it is really nice at the same time. You know, kind of like the it's kind of the gift horse in the mouth kind of thing. You know, where it's a really, really good solid change. It would be nicer if it was usable without Resto Staff, but I'm willing to take it as the flat buff that it is. It's really nice. So yeah, Annulment got hurt a lot. It's reduced. It lost its shield size by 9%. And Harness Magicka, this hurts a bit. So this morph no longer returns 3% of your max magic when absorbing a spell. Instead, it restores 5% of the ability's cost whenever absorbs any damage. Note this continues to increase per piece of light armor worn. Still only occur up to 3 times per cast. So Harness got hurt a lot. I don't know if we're gonna run Harness anymore. I think Dampen might become the new meta here. Because what just happened here basically is that when you were wearing a lot of light armor, Harness could actually give you more mana back than it cost. If you were set up just right. It might not be quite that, but it could for the most part do that. And it can't do that anymore. It can't do that. So this could be rough. Harness might get replaced by Dampen. We'll have to see. Hey, Kazi. How we doing, my man? Medium armor. Evasion got a cost decrease and also added a new function that if you're hit with an AoE effect, you also gain Major Expedition for 2 seconds. Okay. Elude increases the duration of Major Evasion from by 2 seconds, and Expedition by 1 second for each piece of medium armor worn. That's freaking nice. Elude also increases the duration. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway. And Shuffle. Increase the snare and immobilize immunity granted per piece of medium armor to 1 second from every half second. Shuffle's worth running, gentlemen. In a 5-2 build. This is now 5 seconds of snare immunity. It is finally potentially going to be longer. It's at minimum going to be equal. No, no matter what, this will be more than Rally now for snare immunity. Minimum. And it can go up to 7 seconds. Shuffle finally has gotten the buff that it has needed. The Major Expedition might be overtuned. That might be too much. We'll have to see. But the snare immunity feels good, man. I'm very, very happy to see that the skill's finally getting the what it deserves. Heavy armor, immovable. Reworked this ability in its morphs. It shifted the name around slightly to be more appropriate. This ability is now called Unstoppable. Reduced the cost by 700, which gets a 15% cost reduction on top of that. Nice. So this ability got significantly cheaper. Increase the duration of the CC immunity granted to 6 seconds. While CC immunity persists, you now have a 65% reduced movement speed. You cannot be stopped, but this power comes at a great cost. Immovable Brute. Rename this ability to Unstoppable Brute. It no longer reduces the cost of CC break while slotted, but instead reduces the cost of CC breaking while the Major Ward and Resolve are active. That's a good change. Increase the cost reduction per piece of heavy armor worn to 5% from 4%. This immunity also gains cost reduction as it ranks up. That's all very good things. Immovable Brute, much better. Unstoppable. This morph no longer increases the duration of the ability. Instead, while the snare persists, it increases the amount of damage you can block by 5% per piece of heavy armor worn. But also increases the snare potency by 5%. If you are in all 7 heavy, you are truly immovable, but you can't move. You literally cannot be stunned, but you also cannot be moved. Because you have 100% snare on you. This morph's interesting. This morph has a place, in my opinion. This morph might have a place, though the 65% reduced movement speed still sucks ass. And Unstoppable, I think this is not going to be a pretty dead morph. I think this is going to be a pretty dead morph because despite the fact it gives great block cost reduction, or correction, more block mitigation, the fact it puts 100% snare on you if you're in 7 pieces of heavy armor, that I think this is going to be too niche of a skill. I think this is going to be too niche of a skill in PvE, and it will never be used in PvP. I think it'll never be used in PvP. So yeah, it's an okay skill. I don't like the reduced speed thing they've decided to go with here. I really don't like it. But if you were to use it, at least this skill kind of does, Immovable Brute kind of does what it's supposed to do, which is give you proper cost reduction for CC breaking. Soul Magic, increase the damage per tick of this and its morph by 22%, but also increase the time it takes to deal its total damage to 5 seconds. So 22% damage increase overall, but significantly longer to actually channel the full attack. That's a good change. Increase the cost to 175 from 100 ultimate. Shatter Soul, this morph no longer requires the target to die to actually explode. Instead, the explosion will occur as soon as the channel is completed, or if it ends early from line of sighting, for instance. It will detonate no matter what. Reduce the damage of the detonation by 37%. That's probably from the AoE standards and whatnot. And fixed an issue where the explosion was not revealing targets it hit. Okay. That's good. Also, we have the big thing here. Soul Trap. Soul Trap's huge, by the way. Soul Trap's been amazing. Since this ability is the first ability you have access to, it will now dynamically scale off your offensive stats with some extra protection. It now becomes a weapon damage or a physical damage skill if you have higher weapon damage, or magic damage if you have higher spell damage. It's become a real dot now. Increase the damage per tick by 161%. Remove the 2-second delay from these abilities. Fix many visual errors with this ability. They buffed Soul Trap as a dot now, guys. It's a viable dot. This is what I mean when I said the DPS meta was going to start changing. Where on single target fights, this will replace one of your dots. This will replace one of your ground dots, probably. This is now a viable dot for both mag and stam. Very nice. Also, the Consuming Trap morph, this ability now restores 20% of your health, magic, and stamina rather than just 10%. Very good. It also tells you exactly, it gives you an exact amount rather than just the percentage in the tooltip. Vampire Bat Swarm, reduce the cost, increase the duration, increase the damage dealt by 200 or by 20% per tick. Devouring Swarm increases the base cost of this ultimate to 250 from 200, so it matches the base skill. The heal from this ability is brought into standards. Basically, now the heal is going to be half the damage dealt. Note, this does not mean the heal is tethered to the damage being dealt, though. So, for instance, if this says it does, if I was to do 100 damage to this, I would heal 50 even in PvP. So that's pretty good. Or correction, in PvP, it would heal for half of what it says it's going to heal. So you get the point. It's not tied to how much damage I'm actually doing to the person. It's tied to how much damage it says it's going to do. So either way, the heal is more standardized, which is good. Clouding Swarm. I still think this will not be used very much, but increases the cost of this ultimate to 250 from 200. Reduces the damage of Clouding Swarms activated materialized by 6% per hit. But because it lasts longer, you actually can activate this two additional times. So I still don't think this morph is going to be used very much, but if you do, you can teleport around a lot more with it, which is going to be entertaining. Drain Essence, remove the 1-second delay from this ability and its morphs when it deals damage. The channel from this ability can no longer be dodged. Reduce the damage per tick by 11%, but the additional tick now causes the ability to actually deal 89% more damage. This ability and its morphs now heal you for 15% of your mixing health per tick, down from 20, but to retain the 60% of missing health over the course of 3 seconds. The extra tick will make up for it. Accelerating Drain increases the frequency of damage and healing this ability deals, resulting in an extra tick of damage and healing. That's good. Mist Form reduces the cost by 800. Good. This ability now lasts 4 seconds at base. This ability now ranks up in cost reduction, going down an additional 300 as it goes. Elusive Mist fixed an issue where major expedition for this ability would persist even after casting the channeled effect. Oh. Okay, so you can no longer, if you cancel Elusive Mist, you don't get to keep the Major Expedition anymore. That's what that means. Baleful, this ability no longer ranks up damage, increases the frequency of the damage to half second from 1 second, but decrease the dot by 30% per tick. Baleful still going to be an unused morph, basically. Werewolves. Basically what they do with werewolves here is they wanted them to feel more bursty and powerful, but at the cost of higher resources. So, what has been done here? Ursyn's Bounty. Increase the cost of this morph by 25%. Ouch. Of this ability. Reduce the healing to 37% from 45 of your max health, which is 25% stronger than the standard 30. Ursyn's Rage. Increases the duration of major brutality to 30 seconds from 20 seconds. Very good. Ursyn's Fortitude. This morph now is 25% stronger in heal potency compared to the base, which will result in approximately 16% reduction in healing compared to the previous value. So this has got a little nerfed. Werewolf healing got a bit nerfed. Is basically what they're saying here. Infectious Claws. This ability got a 200 cost increase. The damage of the initial hit is 25% stronger, but reduce the damage over time by 11% per tick. So a little more bursty, a little less sustained damage. Okay. Piercing Howl. Reduce the cost of this ability by actually 700. It's pretty significant. And reduce the damage dealt by 14%. But Howl of Agony got a bit of a damage buff. So this could, I don't know how much it was before, but Howl of Agony. So Werewolf might hit harder against a feared target, but weaker without a feared target. Pounce. Decrease the base cost of this ability by practically an unseen amount, by like 50. The AoE damage for this morph now deals full damage on the initial hit, or deals the same damage as the initial hit. So basically, Brutal Pounce got buffed. Roar. Increase the cost by 200, reduce the radius by 2 meters, increase the duration of the fear by about a second. All morphs now last 4 seconds in total duration. Deafening Roar. This ability now properly applies Major Fracture to 6 enemies regardless if they were feared or not. This is really good because I noticed this the other day and it was really freaking frustrating. Ferocious Roar. This ability now ranks up in cost reduction, so get a little cheaper. Okay, so it gets back down to lower than the original cost, actually. But regardless, Deafening Roar still going to be the better morph, in my opinion. And on top of that, like I said, it lasts 4 seconds. Good. Werewolf Transformation. Reduce the damage dealt by your light and heavy attacks by 17%. Increase the range of your light attacks and your heavy attacks, each by 2 meters. Or heavy attack by 3 meters, light attack by 2. This was done to help preserve the same distance from standard forms since your character does increase in size. Also, Pack Leader, the base ability, and Pack Leader no longer apply bleed with light attacks or have AoE heavy attacks. So Pack Leader got a fat debuff here. Pack Leader doesn't have the base bleed from light attacks anymore or AoE heavy attacks. That is a fat nerf right there. Direwolves can no longer be targeted or die. This is what I've been saying pets need forever. All pets need. This is why I said this is. They did it once this patch. They can do it again. Pet Sorks, please, baby. Pet Sorks, let's do it. Reduce the damage of Direwolf's Gnash by 70% and decrease the frequency of its attack speed to 2 seconds from 1. Ouch. Ouch, that hurts a lot. It's a lot of lower damage. Gnash now applies minor maim to enemies hit for 4 seconds. Reduce the damage of the lunge attack by 60%. Lunge will now be cast every 10 seconds guaranteed rather than having a 25% every 3 seconds. Lunge will now snare enemies for 30%. The direwolves now return to your side if you travel too far away from them. So pack leaders got fat. I mean, they get maimed now, which is interesting, but they got nerfed overall. Pack leaders significantly nerfed. Werewolf Berserker. Increase the damage of the bleed from your light attacks by 25%. Also note that you do retain the heavy attack. So Berserker got flat buffed. 25% stronger bleed. Let's do it. Berserker's going to be feeling really nice. And they did this to make Berserker more of the, they want Pack Leader to be the utility morph, while Berserker's the I'm gonna shred your face morph. So, Berserker's the better damage morph now, which is really cool. Fighters Guild. Guys, they did amazing things with the guilds. They did amazing things. I just want to say this now. They fixed an issue where hulking werewolves were not being considered werewolves for Fighters Guild passives, okay? Circle of Protection. Reduce the cost of this ability and its morphs to 3,900 rather than 7,900. A 4,000 cost decrease. This ability is actually castable now. Fixed an issue with this ability and its morphs could not... Fixed an issue with this ability and its morphs where you would not gain the minor protection if you already had minor endurance. So that's good. That is very good. Turn Undead. Turn Undead is now called Turn Evil, and it fears all enemies rather than just undead. So basically what has happened here, all classes now have access to a fear, to a Nightblade-like fear ability that costs stamina. That's what this is. Costs nearly 4k stam, gives minor protection and minor endurance for casting it, and it fears up to 6 enemies in its area. So, all classes now have a fear. This is very interesting. Very interesting. This is a very nice skill now. Give me one moment here, guys. I gotta type something. One second here, guys. I'm so sorry about this. Alright. So, I'm super thrilled about this. Turn Undead or Turn Evil is going to be awesome. Like I said, Stam has fear now. All Stam has fear. Even Mag if they want to risk slotting this. And then Ring of Preservation. This morph no longer reduces the cost of roll dodge while you're in it, but instead it heals 6 friendly targets, yourself included, in an area every half second. This heals based on our AoE hot standards. Guys, Stam healing has become more and more of a thing. Stam healing now might be more of a thing in dungeons, at least. Because they just got another heal that they can stick on people. Probably going to hit about as hard as Grand Healing, give or take. If I had to take a guess, because that got nerfed to the hot standards as well. This will probably be similar to a stamina version of Grand Healing. That's super dope. That's super cool. So, again, I'm very happy to see the guilds are getting looked at and getting buffed up and brought to a more respectable level. Dawnbreaker, this ability and its morphs now have a minor cast time to match their animation, which is why you can no longer cancel these anymore. Correction. Canceling them will not consume resources, but this cannot be bashed or interrupted from abilities. So if you cancel Dawnbreaker, you don't cast it. Keep that in mind. Increase the damage of the dot by 1% per rank. This ability is morphs will no longer has a 6 target cap since the total area is smaller than other ultimates such as Leap or Permafrost. So Dawnbreaker could be a Zerg killer if you aim it properly. But at the same time, it's has a cast time now. Flawless Dawnbreaker. This morph no longer passively increases your weapon damage by 5% for slotting. Instead, it guarantees you 300 weapon damage for 14 seconds, which ranks up to 20 seconds after casting. After casting it. So, guys, Flawless might become a dead morph here, guys. The only reason people ever used Flawless was specifically for the fact it gave passive weapon damage, which it doesn't anymore. You only get the weapon damage buff if you cast the ability. And I don't know if people are going to do that because Dawnbreaker is smiting. This morph now probably gains its 20% damage increase, which results in a 1% damage loss. So Dawnbreaker smiting hits harder naturally, and it stuns. While Flawless now gives you 300 weapon damage to buff all your other abilities with for 20 seconds after casting. I don't think Flawless is going to be used anymore. I think Flawless just got tossed in the dumpster here. We will have to see, but I'll have to see what people are saying about it. But honestly, because it has to be activated, I don't think we're going to see it used very much. What else we got? Evil Hunter. Fix an issue. This ability costs more than its original form. This morph no longer grants 25% reduced stamina cost of Fighters Guild abilities, and instead grants a 25% damage increase to non-Ultimate Fighters Guild abilities. So anything that does damage in the Fighters Guild now got a buff. Basically that's just Silver Bolts and Trap Beast. But still, interesting. Camouflage Hunter. This ability no longer costs more than its base form. It no longer grants minor berserk from successfully attacking from sneak attack. It now grants minor berserk from dealing crit damage to an enemy's flank, meaning this is much more usable in a real fight. Decrease the duration of minor berserk to 5 seconds from 10 since it's significantly easier to proc. So again, you have a passive way to get Minor Berserk now. Not bad. Silver Bolts. Silver Bolts is a new stamina spammable. It's been brought into the spammable category. It does 12% more damage than it used to. It costs the same as actual spammables now, 2,700, which also has a cost decrease attached to it from Fighters Guild, a 15% cost decrease on it. This ability no longer snares enemies when hit. Silver Shards. This ability now hits all enemies to your original target instead of having a cap. The damage dealt is now 25% weaker than the original hit rather than 50%. And the AoE damage now ranks up as 1% per rank. So basically you get a good... Silver Shards is actually a pretty decent spammable now. Silver Bolts. Decrease the damage of this ability by 25%. Increase the cost by 200. Reduce the snare potency by 10%. And these changes will now allow the ability to perform much closer to other gap closers. So there you go. Hey, compensation. How we doing, my man? Trap Beast. Increase the duration of the damage over time for this ability and lightweight beast trap to 10 seconds from 6. Minor Force will now properly line up with the duration rather than being 2 seconds longer. Reduce the damage per tick by 6%. Reduce the duration of the immobilize on all morphs to 2 seconds. Reduce the base cost by 500. Not bad. Lightweight Beast Trap. This morph no longer ranks up damage of the dot, but instead reduces in costs. Very good, nice. Rearming Trap, now renamed to Barbed Trap. This morph no longer places a new trap in the area after the original duration ends, but instead increases the duration of the dot applied to 18 seconds. The damage per tick has also been increased by approximately 33% since the morph was originally lower than this. Since it was lower than the base morph. Okay, so the thing about this is that depending on the minor force is why people run trap, right? If minor force lasts only 10 seconds no matter which morph you take, lightweight will become the new meta. But if minor force actually scales to the length of the dot and becomes 18 seconds, then barbed will be a very good thing for melee DPS, and lightweight will become really viable for bow characters. So because it's no longer, it actually has a 10-second duration. So very good changes overall, but whether or not barbed is ever used will entirely depend upon whether the force scales with the duration. Entropy. Redesigned this ability in its morph to operate as a dot rather than a strange hot dot buff hybrid it previously was. So basically, again, we have another magic dot in the game now to replace some skills and add more DPS to classes who are missing an extra dot, such as Magden. Magden now has access to enough dots to fill their barb if they want to, which they were always 1 dot short, so that makes a lot of sense. Entropy. Anyway, increase the cost of this ability by a whole hell of a lot, bringing it up to dot standards. Entropy and Degeneration no longer heal over time. Increases the damage of all morphs by 220%. Very good damage buff. Decrease the duration to 10 seconds from 12. Major Sorcerer remains at 20 seconds and fixed it where the made sure it was not increasing the duration of Everlasting Magic passive. Structured Entropy. This morph no longer grants max health for slotting, and instead it heals you for every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. Nice. Degen. This morph no longer has a 15% chance to heal you when you deal light or heavy attack damage, and instead returns 100 magicka every time you deal a light or heavy attack. While the dot persists, reduces the cost of this ability as it ranks up down to 2,700. Cool. So we have another magic dot. Actually very useful. Very nice. Equilibrium. Major Resolve now begin their duration at 22 seconds instead of 20. And at rank 5 with 2 points committed to Everlasting Magic, it will now be a total of 30 seconds. Very, very nice. Spell Symmetry. Increase the cost reduction granted from this ability to 33% from 28. Nice. Fire Rune. Increase the damage of this ability and its morph by 25% for the initial hit and reduce the base cost by 800. Holy crap, that's nice. Scalding Rune. Increase the damage over time by 115% per tick. Volcanic Rune. This morph no longer increases the duration of the stun as the ability ranks, but instead increases or reduces the cost of the ability down to 2,900. So again, nice buffs to the Mage Guild abilities. Makes them viable for something, hopefully. Meteor. Remove the 6-person target cap since it covers a small area. Reduce the damage over time by 13% per tick, but increase the duration so it'll end on 2 points or end on a beautiful whole number. Likely this will bring the damage back to equal, just not as quickly. Ice Comet, this ability will no longer rank up in snare duration of the target's hit, but instead will increase the total damage. The 10% increase of this ability now applies to the dot as well. So Ice Comet's going to hit harder. Ice Comet got buffed, basically is what they're saying here. Ice Comet got nicely buffed. Sigic Order, Meditate got slightly nerfed, 5%, I believe. Yeah, wait, no. Not by much at all, actually. They slightly reduced the healing resources to land on whole numbers, so probably very small nerf. Introspection, the healing for this ability got increased by approximately 5%. That's good. That's very good. Guys, I am so sorry about this, but I will be right back. I need to go get another drink because my throat is freaking killing me. So, guys, I will be just right back, and we will continue this. All right, boys, we are back. We are back. Sorry about that. So I keep forgetting I don't have to do that. Not until I'm in game. But yeah, let's get into the Undaunted. So, Blood Altar and its morphs no longer have a cast time and now cost health rather than magicka. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, that's very nice. Overflowing Altar, this ability no longer attempts and fails to rank up in the healing the synergy provides, and instead reduces the cost as it ranks up. Blood Feast and Blood Funnel, these synergies will now use the activator's highest critical strike chance rather than spell crit. Nice. That is really nice. So we've got Blood Altar getting a good quality of life increase. Bone Shield increased the cost by 500, give or take, but applies a 15% stamina cost reduction that it was missing. So actually, it got a 100 cost decrease once you include that. Nice. Bone Shield will now rank at 1% shield size per rank. Bigger shields, nice. Spiked Bone Shield. This ability damage can no longer self-perpetuate with other damage return procs. This will no longer remove the attack from sneak attack before finishing. So I guess this means that I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'm assuming that means like it doesn't proc off, it doesn't like proc volatile anymore or anything like that. Increase the damage return to 60% from 33 to put it better in line with the other morph. Nice. So this might be interesting. I might want to try this for PvP and see what happens. This is interesting. So we actually get a decent stamina damage shield that returns damage when you're getting smacked. That could be cool. We'll have to see how that turns out. Bone Surge. This morph will continue to rank up its shield size. Nice. Phone just rang and the caller ID read Scottie Pippen. Nice. Very nice. Let's see here. The synergies now affect 6 allies instead of 4, but reduces the shield size to 30% of the synergizer's max health from 50. So the synergy got nerfed, but affects more allies, so I'll take that. That's not bad. And you still get the major vitality on the extra 2 people now, if you're taking the Bone Surge morph. Inner Fire, reduce the cost of this ability in its morphs to 2,700 from 4,000. Holy crap, 1,300 cost reduction. Nice. And increase the chance of applying the synergy to 50% from 25. Inner Beast, this morph now causes your target to take 5% more damage from you while the taunt persists, and the added stamina cost reduction to this morph, they'll bring it down to 2,295. Inner Beast, so these got all buffed. That's nice. Inner Rage, this morph now guarantees the synergy, increasing instead of increasing the chance. So yeah, Inner Rage just got a fat buff. Nice. You know, like a basketball player or something. Name sounds familiar. I have no idea. No idea. It sucks not being a sports fan, unfortunately, for that. Alright, guys. We're on to the other big polarizing change of the patch, and this is the other one I 100% disagree with. Just like Grand Healing. Okay, reduce the cost of stability by, what? 700 or 800? Not bad. Reduce the damage per tick of this ability and Mystic Orb by approximately 13%, but it can now deal damage every half second rather than every second. Okay. Here's the one I don't agree with. You can only have one orb active at a time. This applies to both morphs.
Um, so yeah, we've kind of already talked about how this is a problem on Grand Healing and how that that shouldn't be the case, and how it's going to adversely affect healers in trials, especially new healers trying to learn how to play. Um, honestly, like, this should be like 4. If they really want to limit this, make it like 4, because that's kind of what I was talking to a couple healer friends of mine, so this is their opinion on it, and I really trust them because they're end game healers and they're really good at it. 4 would be an acceptable limit. It's not great, but it would be a limit that they could deal with. But 1 is pitiful, especially considering healers, one of their primary jobs is to give that synergy to people. To spread this thing out so that way everyone's got resource sustain. Mostly the tank and obviously the TPS need it, but the tanks need it too. And if you only can throw 1 out at a time, how the hell is any of these ever going to reach the tank? If you got to cast this through the DPS to get it to the tank, it will never reach the tank. It will never reach it. Because all the DPS will keep grabbing it. And they have every right to. They need the sustain. And many DPS nowadays are running Locusties, which means they need synergies to power their set. So this is a problem for me. This is a humongous problem for me because there's so many synergy sets in the game, Alkosh and Locusties primarily, that are used so regularly in trials now. That require this synergy function. I mean, they can use other synergies too, but there's not a lot of other synergies, you know, and none that give the kind of resource sustain that this one does. So if this change comes through, along with the Grand Healing change, healing got every veteran trial just got significantly harder. Like indirectly, they just all got buffed a lot, and it's gonna be hard on progression groups. It's gonna be really hard on progression groups, and even endgame groups are probably gonna struggle with this for a bit until they get used to it. The other thing I want to say that this does right now, this firmly cements Templars back at the top of the healing chain. We've had so much good progress on other healers becoming more viable, but this will firmly plant Templars back at the top because they have another source of the same synergy. They'll be able to actually reliably get it to the tanks. They'll be able to reliably have 2 sources of a resource return synergy, which means that, you know, you can get all the DPS fed up on synergies again easier. Like I said, if this change comes through, they're going to firmly cement Templars as being the meta healer again, which they already are, but this will like I said, this will 100% cement it. I don't agree with this change at all. I hope this needs to at the very least be revised, and I'm praying it does not go live, because if it does, this is gonna suck. All right, moving on. Moving on. All right, Radiant. The synergy now has a 1-second delay. Oh, that's the Radiant synergy from Inner Fire. Okay, interesting. Spawn Broodlings. Reduce the initial hit of this ability and other versions of the morph by 21%. These synergies now summon 1 spider for 10 seconds rather than 2 for 15, which will significantly reduce their damage dealt. So they're nerfing spiders finally. Also Black Widows. Increase the damage of the poison applied by the spider by approximately 66% to offset some of the damage loss of the ability. Note this synergy will still see a large efficiency loss. So yeah, the spiders is getting significantly nerfed to deal with the fact of the amount of Bobo meta that showed up. Bobos will still be good, mind you, but they won't be completely meta shattering, which is good. Because to be truthfully fair, a double bow user should never do as much damage as a melee character. To be completely fair, because you're at way less, you can not only do your damage more consistently because mechanics are less likely to affect you, but you can also do it from a safer distance because, again, mechanics are less likely to affect you. So if this is how they're going to go about it, that's fine. That being said, Bobos will still be very good, and anyone wanting to run one, you're still going to be fine. It's just you're not going to be beating out the melee DPS. What else we got here? Trap Web. Reduce cost ability by 15%. These abilities will now deal initial hit damage when they land at their target row location, resulting in a 75% damage increase for the caster.
Cool. And fixed an issue where the parts disability would fail if the caster was silenced. Assault skill line. Caltrops. Caltrops is another AoE skill that got hit, but got some interesting changes, so we'll talk about it here. Reduce the base cost by 600. Increase the snare potency to 50% from 30. Reduce the damage per tick by 60% and decrease the duration to 10 from 12 seconds. These apply to all morphs. So Caltrops got a fat damage nerf. Let's see, anti-cavalry morph. Decrease the base duration to 12 seconds, which ranks up to 15. It also no longer increases damage per rank. Razor Caltrops. This ability no longer deals initial hit damage, but instead applies major fracture to every enemy hit by the dot, up to 4 seconds. So, Caltrops 1 got a massive nerf to its damage. Just like all other AoEs, though, I think it got hit harder than any other. Might be because it was such a high source of damage, I'm not sure. But all STAM DPS using this now have a source of major fracture in their build. So, interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I might use this on my tank. If on a sword and board tank, this is what I would use. And I think that's what I'm gonna do on my future tanks. So, basically what has happened here is this became a good, if you're not using a staff on a tank, this has become a great wall of elements replacement, because AoE major fracture is really handy. And the fact that it's a 50% snare. You loved using it on your Stam tune. I think single target dots are going to become the new standard, and you're only going to use AoE in specific fights. I think that's kind of how they've changed the DPS meta. But because they've added a brand new stamina dot that will replace this on non-AoE fights. And they've added 2 new Magicka dots. One to replace Wall of Elements on non-AoE fights, or your class dot, whichever your choice. And one to give pretty much to give Magden the missing dot, or the dot they've been missing for so long. So, like, overall, Magdens are probably going to be parsing higher this patch. Comparably speaking, they probably got a lot better compared to other classes. I'm not saying that they're going to be beating other classes, but I think Magden as a DPS got better this patch, despite losing some AoE damage. Yeah, and like I said, they gave us a really powerful single target dot to replace one of our AoEs during non-AoE fights. So I think that's a new DPS meta, but we'll have to see. Magicka Detonation. Reduce the cast time of this ability and the inevitable detonation morph to 1 second from 1.5. Increase the damage of all morphs by 7% to ensure they deal AoE damage standard. Reduce the cost by 500. And remove the maximum limit target scaling of these abilities so they may actually combat large Zergs. Boys, bombers. Please make a big comeback with this. Please make a big comeback. Bombers are so entertaining to watch. Hey, Kazi, welcome back, man. Yeah, dude, these are long freaking patch notes, man. We are over 2.5 hours into this. These are long freaking patch notes. But I'm trying to cover everything as in-depth as I physically can. Holy. Rapids reduce the cost by quite a bit. Let's see here. This ability has no longer remove themselves if you take an action such as healing or damage. So cool. Reduce the duration of Major Expedition to 8 seconds from 30 for the most part, because now you can have a support spamming this and give your group 8 seconds of Major Expedition even in combat, which is interesting. Dwarf no longer grants Minor Expedition after the Major Gallop ends, and instead it grants Major Expedition alongside Major Expedition. For that. Cool. Cool. Vigor. Adhere this ability to our single target dot standard. So, Vigor and Resolving Vigor now only heal the caster. They no longer heal your allies. Increase the duration to 10 seconds from 5, and decrease the tick frequency to 2 seconds from 1 second. So it takes twice as long to get the heal. But they increased the healing per tick by 85% and reduced the cost by 1,200. So, Vigor costs a lot less, heals for more, but takes longer to heal you. Now you have a choice here. Echoing Vigor reintroduces the area of effect, capable of healing 6 allies in a 15-meter radius. That's nice. That's really nice. Echoing got a nice buff, that means. And on top of that, Resolving. Resolving does not have the AoE component, but it doubles the frequency and halves the duration. So for a solo player in PvP, the heal is actually going to be about 40% stronger than live, give or take. I'll have to look at the exact stats to tell you for sure. But compared to live, this will probably be about 40% stronger. If I'm guessing right. I'm just guessing here. I'll have to look. And it, like I said, it lasts 5 seconds, and it got a massive cost decrease. Like, Vigor as a whole for a solo player got a fat buff. It's really nice. Really nice. Warhorn's ability no longer extends the duration of the bonuses or provides minor ward resolve, and instead it grants 15% worth of critical resistance to operate as a counter to aggressive Warhorn. Interesting. No, you're waiting for PvP this whole time. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Trying to get through this. It takes too long. Emperor, you can no longer generate ultimate while in a transformation, such as Bone Goliath or Werewolf, while you're Emperor. Okay. Barrier and its morphs now affect 12 grouped allies instead of 6. That's huge. Reduce the heal per tick by 11%. Reduce the duration to 15 from 30, but increase the frequency of the tick to 1.5. Interesting. Replenishing Barrier. This the magic restored from this ability is conditional require now restores a flat value of magicka rather than a percentage of your max stats. Restore is now 1,000 at rank 5. That's really good for my tanks. It's really good who use my tanks that use this. Might be bad for a healer. They'll probably get less magic than they're used to from it. Although since it affects more people, they'll probably actually still end up getting more. Like, this actually got buffed nicely. Really good. Reduces the amount of ultimate restored per shield dissolve to 4 from 6. Note that since this ability can now affect more targets, this will actually be a significant buff if it hits more people. Good to know. Guard, reduce the cost by about, wow, 700. Not bad. Give or take, probably about 650 actually. Purge. This ability is more no longer reduce the duration of incoming negative effects. Increase the amount of effects that it instantly moves from 3 to 2, or 3 from 2. Oh god, yeah, this is still an expensive ability. Efficient Purge still costs 300 more than it used to, and Cleanse no longer heals for 15% of the target's max health, and instead heals for 7 through 10% of their max health per negative effect remove. Revealing Flare. This ability behaves much more closely to other reveals, such as Melee or Expert Hunter. Lingers in area for 5 seconds, costs a whole hell of a lot more. Prevent it from being spammed. This ability now lasts 7 seconds, down from 8. Sorry, Lingering Flare now lasts 7 seconds, down from 8, but ranks up to 10. Scorching Flare, rename this ability to Blinding Flare. This ability no longer damages any revealed, but now stuns revealed enemies for 2 seconds. Interesting. Okay. Oh my god, we're finally at the last skill being changed, guys. We're finally at the last skill. Siege Wall. This ability and its morphs now affects up to 12 allies instead of 6. Nice. Reduce the cost by 1,350. Propelling Shield. Reduce the costs by a further 600. Siege Weapon Shield. This protection for siege weapons will now apply to all allied siege weaponry, including your own, rather than just allied. Fix an issue where the damage mitigation could affect anyone else in the area and not just your allies. That would be a freaking rip. Noff will be excited when he watches the VOD. Yeah, dude, it's gonna be like a 3-hour VOD I'm putting up on YouTube. Holy crap. Bloody Mar. Reduce the max health and max magicka by 14 and 13% respectively. This was done to retain the fact that the drinks are meant to be weaker since their food the drinks are meant to be weaker than their food counterparts due to special sets items that use them. I don't mind this change. Honestly, I knew it was going to happen, but rip the dream. The max magic builds you could get with us were really funny. But, oh well. Glyphs of Bashing. These enchants now grant weapon spell damage to your bash instead of only weapon damage. Also increase the potency by 21%. Nice. He loves Natch Potes. Alright, item sets that got small changes. Guys, we're at the very end of the list here. So, thank God. Affliction. Fixed an issue with the Defiled passive did not affect the Defile in the set. Briarheart. This will now place an appropriate buff icon on your effects bar in your character sheet. Defensive position and Perfective defensive position will reduce the amount of magic restored if you fail to reflect or absorb a projectile with defensive posture by 20%. This is major feels bad, man. Okay. Not really. It doesn't really matter. Most people don't use it anyway. But the literally a couple days after I'm talking about how to abuse this set, the Asylum Sorin board with defensive with Absorb Magic. Absorb Magic gets a fat cost increase in the patch notes following, and the set itself gets debuffed a bit. Or gets nerfed a bit. Feels major bad, man. I was really like making jokes about exploiting this, and I guess they were paying attention. Guess they were paying attention. Ebon Armory reduced this max health from this set to 1,000 from 1,118. Okay, so a bit of a nerf to Ebon. Weird. Eternal Hunt fixed an issue where weapon swapping would remove the rune. False God fixed an issue where magic return from the set would fail if you were also wearing the perfected version. I didn't think they would, I didn't think these sets would stack, but apparently I was wrong. So you can wear both False God and Perfected False God and get both benefits. Super interesting. I gotta admit, it's a tad bit weird. But okay. Team Jaws. Major Berserk granted now lasts 5 seconds, up from 3, but now only works with enemies you are actively in combat with. This is a good change. This is a really good change. It's gonna make the set less niche. Still gonna be weird, but way less niche than it was. Ice Furnace, this set now grants spell damage rather than weapon damage for the 4-piece bonus. Nice. Craw, area effect now is able to hit dragons. Good. Ryan's Kiss fixed an issue where this heal from the set could critically strike. Yeah, good, because proc sets are not supposed to be able to crit. Merciless Charge increased the amount of ticks this weapon grants by 1, resulting in 20% damage increase. This effect trigger Stampede's area effect each tick. Wow. Okay, so if you're using I think it's the Maelstrom two-hander, that's gonna be you could actually have a shit ton of AoEs dropping. If you're using Stampede, that could be hilarious. Pillar of Nirn increased the damage of the bleed by 25%, resulting in a 20% total damage increase. Note that the bleed can now be affected by physical resistance, so this isn't gonna be as bad as it sounds. Plague Doctor reduced the max health to 3,000 from 4,000, basically just cuz. Quick Serpent fixed an issue where the stamina return of the set would fail if you were also wearing Vicious Serpent. Roar of Alkosh can now hit the dragons in can now hit dragons, which is both a good thing and a major feels bad. I was really enjoying not having to wear Alkosh in a vet trial, but I guess that's over. Every guild's gonna want me to wear Alkosh again. Feels bad. Savage Werewolf, this set now ticks once every second for 4 seconds instead of once every 2 for 6. This will result in an additional tick of damage. Nice. Sentinel of... I can't pronounce that. The Dwarven Spider spawn from the set will now always spawn on the target who proc the summon rather than only the caster. The spider is also now immobile and will no longer move once it has begun channeling its heal ability. To make the set more consistent. Shadow of the Red Mountain fixed an issue with the set. If it gained the healing blow, it would not grab a new target. Stinging Slashes increased the damage bonus to 1,600 per tick from 1,350. Basically, Master Dual Wield got buffed. Thunderous Volley. Now, this had to get changed because increased the damage bonus of this set to nearly double the original value since Volleys only has half the ticks now. They're slightly less than double since they are now in prettier numbers. Okay, so basically Maelstrom Bow just got buffed to account for the fact that Volley got hammered. What else we got here? Turok's Pact. This will no longer increase the strength of Oblivion damage enchants, though it will still decrease their cooldown. Interesting. Twin Sisters increase the damage over time from this set by 67%, but the dot now happens over 10 seconds rather than 8. Okay. Veladrift. This item set's proc can no longer hit the same monster multiple times. So does that mean Veladrift, when you shoot the 3 spores, a monster can only get hit by 1 spore? That's what that sounds like. To me. Veladrift might have just gotten nerfed for single target fights, which is weird. Okay. Warrior's Fury. Now, this is actually one of my favorite set changes of the entire patch. This set now procs off taking any damage rather than crit. The duration of the buff only lasts 5 seconds rather than 6.
The stacking bonus can now occur once every half second, so you can stack this pretty fast. Reduce the total number of stacks to 20 from 25, resulting in 150 less weapon damage at max stacks. Upon reaching 20 stacks, this bonus can no longer refresh, but the duration will be doubled. I really like this. I really like this. Because not only did they just by making it where it now procs off any damage, Warrior's Fury is viable and non-CP now. The stacking takes 10 seconds to stack, and then you have a guaranteed 10 seconds that it will be up. You have a burst window. After it's full stacked, you have 10 seconds to work with the proc. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. Got 10 seconds to work with the proc, and then all the procs go away. All the stacks go away after those 10 seconds. You have to restack the set again. So over the course of 20 seconds, constantly taking damage, you'll have half where you're building and half where you have it. And then you start over again. I think this is really good because, like I said, they made it viable and non-CP, and they added counterplay to the set in duels where it was really overperforming. Stam DKs especially were abusing the crap out of this in duels. So now when you're playing against someone who has this, you know that once their burst window ends, you've got 10 seconds before they're back at full damage again. You know, you got 10 seconds to keep hammering them. So I think this is a really good change to the set. I really like this, and honestly, I'll probably be wearing Fury more often instead of less often, which is, you know, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a really good change. Fixed an issue where the set would proc and go on cooldown after attempting to purge an unpurgeable effect. By the way, this is Weird Tree. This is Weird Tree's blessing I'm talking about. That's good, so it can't accidentally break. Kind of scan this real quick, guys. This is all pretty much last big PvP change. In an effort to reduce the amount of times you end up with a stuck in combat bug, all range guards have undergone sweeping changes to their awareness and aggro behavior. That's pretty much it, guys, for the PvP changes. We're into quest and PvE changes now. So with that, we are gonna log into the game finally. We're gonna log into the freaking game because but there's the patch notes, guys. There is the patch notes.